materials that the applicant is requesting to present for this evening's meeting. Is that correct?
That is correct, Chairman or Acting Chairman. I will say the applicant here, and we have, I believe, Mike Quinlan here from Compass Project Management, along with the applicant team. They have submitted, as promised, revised plans. Those came in yesterday, and they've been loaded up onto the website today. And so also I will tell the board that those plans were forwarded over to our third-party consultant, GCG. I had a conversation with GCG yesterday and then also again today.
Peter, you're frozen.
Yep.
Sorry, everyone. We just got a technical issue here. Hopefully, Peter will be back shortly. Time for him to upgrade his broadband plan here. Jeez. There you go. Peter, you're still on mute.
Okay. My screen went blank. I don't know if that happened to anybody else. Did that?
No, you just froze and disappeared probably 40 seconds ago.
Okay.
We didn't hear much of whatever you said.
Okay. So I think I left off stating that the plan has been submitted to GCG. Our third-party consultant will be reviewing all items. They should have everything wrapped up early next week. However, all the, from a look, we'll analyzing the plan actually over the last 3 months, and also over the last 2 days, what is outstanding is minor in nature. And I believe that all items can be taken care of within the construction phase regarding items of that nature. So at that point, Joe, after, as a lead up or as a jump off point from our last meeting on Monday, the board obviously reviewed the draft decision that was given to everybody on Monday and Tuesday. I tried to make all edits that were talked about and or identified at the meeting on Monday night. Then that was redistributed to the board. So at this point, I think, if there's any comments pertaining to those edits, I think we can start at that point. And then kind of
I would agree.
Okay.
So, yep. So I think we are all in receipt of the updated draft decisions. All the board is in receipt of that. It's reflective of our conversation on Monday evening. So at this point of time, I guess, to the board, are there any further items on either of the two items, both the documents, both the special permit as well as the site plan permit? The site plan review? Are there any items in those documents that the members of the board wish to discuss at this point of time?
I did have some changes, and I sent Peter fairly small minor edits. I don't think the board has seen those edits.
Yeah.
I just resent them again. I don't know if the board received them. Would it make sense to kind of do a screen share, like I think Peter did that last time, where
So
Peter, are you able to share my version if that's the only edits you've gotten?
I have yes.
I think to be honest with you, Anna, I think the better approach here would be, let's share the commonly distributed version, right? Which all the board members have. Peter, if you could share that to the board, and then apologies, but I think if we can just layer you could kind of step through that document and layer in your proposed commentary, if that works.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Anna, I did not receive. Do you want to start off with the site plan or the special permit, please?
Up to Joe.
It doesn't matter to me. whichever,
Okay.
whichever you have more readily available here.
All right.
Do both.
All right, so we'll start with the special permit, and excuse me for a moment. All right. Excuse me.
The purple one is the one that I sent you, Peter.
The purple.
Yep, the one that you just had open that you closed. It's okay. We can just go through the one you have open. It's fine.
Okay. Okay. So as I scroll down, Anna, do you want to start at the findings or the conditions?
You opened up the special permit draft. Let me open mine. Give me a moment. I'm going to catch up to you.
All right, take your time.
So would you mind actually starting out with the other document, because this one I think mirrors the other one more, and most of my changes were in the other one.
Oh, okay.
Yep, if you don't mind.
Nope.
So Peter, obviously on both of these documents, the drawings will be updated. Is there, with the new revision date? Is that
Correct.
right?
Yeah. Yep. The new revision date will be added. I
Okay.
just did not have a time today.
Right. And I think you sent these out. Well, I don't know which came
I
first.
sent these out on Wednesday.
Yeah.
And
So
the
those, they
applicant-
weren't actually submitted yet, those drawings.
Correct. So I didn't have time.
Yep.
Excuse me. There's two people in the waiting room.
Got 'em.
Got it. Okay.
Yep.
All right. So,
So
here,
one order of procedure, and this is a discussion point to the board. So I'd like to get your take here. So obviously, with regard to this document and with regard to any proposed edits, I'd say unless there are, and I wouldn't anticipate it, but unless there are large or significant proposed changes here, which I don't think we're anticipating given our work on Monday night, I think I would propose that to the extent the board agrees to change this site plan approval document, that we actually make the changes directly into the document and be agreed on that, such that to the extent we finish, we can vote on a final document, a final version of this document, to the extent that we're at that point. Does the board agree with that kind of sentiment at this point?
Yeah, that sounds like a plan.
Yep, I agree as well.
It's definitely
as
a
well.
good, it's definitely a
Okay.
good plan. I'm catching up to you, Pete, and I had the wrong document open. Let's look at the special permit first, because that's the one that has the documents that we reviewed. Sorry, I know I keep switching on you. It's just hard to, it's
It's
hard to
okay.
function on two screens looking at two originals.
okay. Not a problem.
It would be a lot easier if you would just share the purple version that keeps popping up. Yeah,
I don't know what purple version you're speaking of. I'm sorry.
okay.
I mean, Anna, if I just, like,
Yep.
if it's absolutely critical, we can look at the edited
I
version.
think it's going to be much more efficient, but
Okay, so we'll just need to be very tactical about
yep.
that and where it's going in the document that we're looking at. Like, that's okay, but let's just be very.
Let's just move on.
Right.
Okay. So we are in the special permit and site alteration special permit, page 1. I had no changes. I think the first change I made was on page 5, which is where we list off all the different documents that we've reviewed.
Yeah.
So there's a through M delineation of documents. A couple more pages, or yep, I think it's coming up right there.
Yep.
And if you get to K, yep. So this particular one where it says L, other correspondence from abutters, neighbors, residents, and others relative to the project. So I do want to acknowledge that we gotten over 100 emails in the last 2 days. So you don't need to write anything yet, but I want to kind of comment on this. I want to acknowledge that we've gotten hundreds of emails from residents. In looking at those emails, the great majority have some template language. It looks like that template language came out of a email that was distributed via some kind of listserv that went out to parents on behalf of the town manager, or I should say on behalf of the select board, since the town manager serves the select board. And that particular letter asked parents to use a template to support the project without any alterations that would save the tree at the gravesite. I think we need to acknowledge that. I think that's an important data point because we literally received hundreds of those emails. And I would like to acknowledge them and be very clear about them. So the proposed language I had was to add to this sentence, and it would say correspondence.
Why don't we hear it before adding it?
Sure. Correspondence included over 100 emails received from members of the public on September 22nd and September 23rd, following a request for letters by the town manager, comma, with a template provided in support of the project without plan alterations that would save the tree at the gravesite.
And can I ask why do you think this needs to be added in particular?
I think for transparency, it's very important for us to be open as to the fact that the majority of the public comment we received is based on a template that's not accurate to what actually occurred. We had full consensus on Monday that we would give full discretion to the applicant to remove the tree. Somehow the public has been led to believe that that is not accurate and that we're somehow preventing this project from occurring to save a tree. I think that's an important point because the select board on August 22nd wrote similarly to us. This appears to be continuation of that. I don't think that letter was appropriate. I don't think this particular letter was appropriate because it's not accurate to what's actually happening. We've been fully in support of this project. This particular board has been extremely thorough in its process, but has been timely and respectful of the MSBA process. We had 3 to 6 months to do this project as far as our review. We're at month 2. We've been timely, we've been respectful of our statutory duty to review the permit. And we've received hundreds of emails based on a template that's not accurate. We never jeopardized this project to save a tree. In fact, we had consensus Monday night that we would give full discretion to the applicant. I do think it's important because we reviewed all those letters. I reviewed those letters. I opened them up and I reviewed them. And that's part of our decision-making is the public.
Yes, I did as well. And I read all of them. So thank you everyone who did send in letters, whether they were for or no matter what side of the issue we're on. But I just don't think this is needed. I think in order to do this, we should really go back to every letter that was sent to us to make sure that the data on that information was all, accurate and complete before accepting it in. I'm not sure what the motivation here is, but it seems unnecessary to me. And I think we're taking into account that we've received correspondence. And we should move on.
And I kind of support that. It is just not the letters that we received last 2 days, but we've had continuous communication from the community ever since this project has come on live. So if we are starting to document it, we should make sure we are documenting everything, because there is always support and otherwise, right? So we should be fair to both sides. And I also don't see why we should be very specific on this language here.
We
And,
can,
mhm,
there-
go ahead.
go ahead, sorry, go ahead, Lakshmi.
So, and I understand there was a template that was provided, but I think some of the people, I think out of the 100, at least a certain percentage of that 100 did add their own language into it. And their arms were not twisted to send this email, right? I agree, a lot of people don't have the time to type up the language or type up the right language. So the template provided an easy way, but again, their intentions were still the same. They all wanted to save the school. They wanted the school project to move ahead. Again, they might have got like you said, if your perception is they got the facts wrong from our meeting, from the prior meeting, but that's not the point. The point that we need to get from these emails is that they're all supporting the project to move forward. But because they're all concerned that the project might get delayed, right? I think that's what we should focus on. So I don't think this should be spiked out, because then we'll have to spike out every email we got, right? Regarding the fans, regarding every single email that we get after the meetings too, right? Then there's no stop to what we need to list here.
If you go higher up, you'll see all kinds of letters are in fact listed. I think it is quite relevant that the majority of the public commentary we've received is template, and essentially at the behest of the select board. But I will respect the opinion of those on this board. If there's no consensus, we can move on.
I think the consensus, how many, well, I'll let you handle it, Joe, sorry.
So, I mean, I think the majority here, the three that expressed an opinion at this point, I think it's the majority here. So I think it's fine. I think we should move on at this point. So. The only reason I would entertain this is if I think to Tricia, Lakshmi, and Deepa, I think your characterizations are good. I understand your thinking. The only question I have is there any specific legal concerns that you're trying to address here?
Okay, that's true.
So I'm not a lawyer. If you're getting at something specific legally, like that's fine, or that's something that I would entertain. But like beyond that, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, I think
a lot of content in all directions.
We did. I'm responding, for us to get to the consensus point at the last meeting, we talked quite a bit about the extent of the public comment. And there was, I think, Tricia, you made the comment that, listen, we've gotten so much from one side versus very little from the other. And this kind of letter writing campaign gave a lot of color as to how and why we got the prior letters, indicating somehow that we were disrupting the process. And this particular round is consistent with the select board's prior letter to us, basically telling us that we were jeopardizing the project, which is not accurate. And so I do have some concerns about that. I think that we are basing our decision on public commentary that is generated inappropriately. And I do think that needs to be transparent. But I'm satisfied. I'm satisfied because we have discussed it.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
Anna,
I don't think that.
Yeah. So
Go
Joe,
ahead,
can we? So Anna, to your point, if we need to make a point about this, can we just rephrase it?
Sure.
Yeah, we can
Sure.
rephrase, right?
I think a lighter way to rephrase it would be correspondence included over 100 emails received from the public.
But Anna, just for a second, again, like, how is this 100, 200 emails that have hit the inboxes here? How is this correspondence different from any other? The point that I think Lakshmi made is.
So the reason it's different is that there are inaccuracies in it that are disruptive to a public process.
Yeah, there were inaccuracies and other emails were received. And I also don't understand the connection between these letters and the select board. And so I think you're making some kind of strange leaps as well. And I think it also puts a little damper on the fact that are these letters then sent by individual people? Are they somehow not valid because they responded to an email or a template they got? Is
So
there,
you can
is
choose-
there,
you
wait,
can-
wait,
you-
wait. Is their voice somehow less valid? Maybe because they didn't have time to construct another type of email? I don't like the inference it's making. And I really think we should move on to the job at hand and not get distracted again like we did on Monday.
As I said earlier, we can
Anna,
move
please.
forward.
Yeah, I think the majority of the board wants to move on. So let's move on. Let's move to what other commentary thoughts do you have here?
Sure. I think that the page 7, where we talk about the number of parking spaces, we were going to have the actual number, and I don't think it's been entered.
Yes, I can speak to that. Anna, I have not edited this decision since it went out. I can tell you that I believe the applicant was very nice enough to email me an outline of how many spaces there were. I just haven't had time within the last 2 day really to make those changes.
Can we just type it in now, Peter, if we know the number?
Sure. Can Mike Quinlan, can you please step forward? I think I have to unmute you.
I can help if you need, Peter.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I gotta open up my screen a little bit. Mr. Quinlan.
Trying to get there. It's
Yeah.
a long list. Sorry.
I got asked to unmute.
I got it. I got him.
Okay. Mike?
238.
238. Perfect. Thank you.
On page 9, oh, sorry.
So
yeah.
hang on one second, Anna. Sorry. So okay, there we go. 238 and 238. Okay. Thank you, Peter.
Yep.
So on page 9, the first paragraph, the white oak tree.
Page 9, the first paragraph.
Yep.
Just give Peter 1 second to get there.
Okay, I am here.
Yeah, I think that there's a little bit of see the sentence that says permission to remove the trees granted. The prior sentence, I think you meant to put a comma after the word tree and then make the P not capital. I think it's meant to be one sentence. I could be wrong.
Any board members want to weigh in on that?
Just getting caught up here.
No, I had that same
Correct.
edit.
It was just like hanging. I think it's meant to be connected.
Yeah, so comma and.
Yeah. After
comma,
tree, permission to remove the tree is granted.
Perfect.
Following the conditions below.
Correct.
So how about subject to the conditions below instead of following? Subject, so granted subject to the conditions below.
Sure.
Subject. Okay, sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
I did not have any additional changes to this particular document.
So with regard, oh, go ahead, Tricia.
So if we go down to condition A, under that, I am just wondering if we wanted to simplify this. And by that, I mean, at one time, this determination, this kind of condition was about the trunk, the trunk being cut off at a certain height in order for it to be used as a potential in-place educational stump, lack of a better word. And I'm wondering if given our discussions after that, if we should just forego that option, which I'm not sure anyone felt very strongly about. In fact, I think Anna felt very strongly against, and not deal with it leaving it as an educational kind of opportunity stump, and instead just take it out.
So can you just clarify, Tricia, what exactly you're proposing removing?
I think it would be keeping
So subparagraph A that we're looking at right now.
subparagraph A.
Yep.
It would be keeping the first sentence and basically eliminating eliminating the consult, because there would be no height needed. So it says may consult with the Ashland Historical Commission. That was about what the height of the stump should be if the Ashland Historical Commission wanted to use it as an educational moment. So it'd basically be taking that out and then taking out to determine the final height of the stump, because it would be just following the landscape chapter of the document that we mentioned. So it basically be when the trunk is taken down, it'll be taken down to the ground, not as per this document, and not to any intermittent stump height to be used for educational purposes. After we had talked about it, the applicant had actually, I think Eddie showed some slides of this stump in place with arrows pointing to the stump about different time periods. And then Anna had talked about feeling strongly that that kind of educational thing shouldn't be located within the burial site itself. And so it kind of maybe has resulted in a kind of complexity of this condition. And I'm not sure anyone feels that strongly about it. Anna might feel the most strongly about not having the educational component in there. So as one of my edits, which I did not send in to Peter, was figuring, because was figuring we were doing it this way because of the such short notice, that I'm wondering if we need it in there. It's kind of.
I mean, it's pretty soft if you look at it. At such time, the Mendus School Building Committee may.
Oh yeah, it's fine. I just thought, it was one of the things I was considering.
I mean, I like it as is. I think that the next paragraph is what discusses the uses, and it's quite specific as to what we're highlighting and how. I don't see anything in paragraph B that talks about use that concerns me. I was concerned that this would just kind of be for show and would disrupt the respectability of a gravesite. But I think paragraph B deals with uses in a way that I'm very comfortable with. And I think paragraph A, by allowing consultation, creates reinforces that. So I kind of like the language as is. I don't think it's that complex because there's no requirement for consultation. It's a may.
That's fine. That wasn't really my worry. It was, and that wasn't really a worry. It was just that maybe that, I think I was the one who initially said, maybe we cut it down to this mid height, and I really didn't feel that strongly about it. So I thought I'd throw it out there. So
my only concern with regard to the height is just, I think it's important that they not take any risks with the gravestones trying to cut the stump really low. Like that's my primary concern. And it is very close to to the stone. So that's my primary concern here, and what they want to do with stump, I'm less. But.
I mean, we could add a sentence to paragraph A to reinforce that we're putting a priority on protecting the spirit and nature of the gravesite. Yeah. We could do something like that, but I don't think it's needed. I think
I think we're good.
Yeah. I'm good, but I thought maybe other people, it's fine.
Yeah, it looks fine.
I did not have any additional changes in this particular document.
And I just noticed one sentence in the previous paragraph where you've added any additional grave sites found are to be addressed as required by state law.
Yeah, if you're looking at the version I emailed, I'm not going to push for that because the grave site is addressed. The other grave sites are addressed elsewhere in the document.
Okay.
I mean, if you, we could add, I think originally I wanted to add, I mean, you've raised it. I could mention it.
Can we go to the section and let's just,
Sure. If
No,
you go
you
back-
are on that section, Joe. So that paragraph where you talk about landscape character and vegetation.
Yep.
The last sentence that's added suggested by Anna is any additional grave sites found are to be addressed as required by state law. But having read this 3 times, Anna, I wondered if it's already covered in the paragraphs.
That's why I didn't raise it. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
okay.
think we're fine. I don't think we
Okay.
need to raise it again. Yeah.
Peter, can you backtrack just a little bit so we can see the paragraph above? Yeah. I just wanted to look at some things I had done and see if they're really needed. Okay, I think I'm good.
please give me 15 seconds, please. With regard to the letter C on page 10 and starting into 11, Peter.
Yep.
So we're using the term specimen tree. This is not my area of expertise. Like, is that clear? Is that sufficiently clear? Or is it murky? What does specimen tree mean in the context of? I mean, I understand in theory what it is, but do we want to just, is it better to just indicate a certain size, or just somebody, Tricia, or just talk to me about what that means, and is it clear enough?
I think well, I don't know if Eddie's on. I actually, I had Googled specimen tree at one point. Specimen tree definition. Specimen tree, an unusual or impressive plant grown as a focus of interest in a garden. And so that's the online definition from Oxford. My definition was always just that it's, when you go to pick out a tree, it's really one with the potential to be symmetrical and balanced and have special characteristics rather than that are really planted to become something beautiful and special, a highlight.
Yeah, Joe, just to answer, just to jump in here. Am I on mute? No.
No, you're good. We can hear
I think actually I had once said a signature tree, and Eddie corrected me and said a specimen tree. Because the term I was using was not a typical term.
Our bylaws don't address the term specimen tree. However, I've always kind of thought about it as a large, mature tree, as that may act as a focal point, per se, within a landscape. And then also a specimen tree, I've always also understood as a maybe
larger
more
caliper,
a larger caliper, but also a tree of high quality, right? And so a specimen tree, I also can say, and I believe, is a tree of high quality, such as a walnut tree, or
we've been specific to a white oak, right? Which,
yeah, but it's really a tree, I believe, that can grow in a symmetrically balanced. When I think of a specimen tree, I think of the trees in the public garden, right? Or a tree in
So we can't buy a specimen tree and put it in the ground. We can only buy a tree that has the potential to become a specimen tree. Like, at the end of the day, we're not going to plant a 100-year-old white oak. We wish we could, but we can't. So
yeah,
all I'm driving at is, do we want to specify a certain, size or inches, or are we fine? Do we feel that this will accomplish the goal we're trying to do? That's my question to the committee.
Just to jump in, I think it does, Joe. You know, I think at a previous meeting we had Eddie, I believe Eddie Marshall was his name.
Mhm.
Obviously a very, he was a wealth of knowledge regarding landscape architecture and landscaping. We got into a deep conversation of when you buy, as you insert, if you specify certain diameter at breast height trees, you look into the future, and he kind of got into this whole theoretical concept that
Larger versus smaller and stuff. I remember
larger versus smaller.
Yeah.
And so, I just want to have the board recall that conversation. That's all.
Yeah, no, I do. So to the board, are you okay with this as it is?
Yeah.
I'm okay with it as it is.
I'm good as well. And I think Joe added to that, specimen tree in the landscape language also means something that creates a focus to that zone. So I think it kind of makes sense to have that with the context it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good enough. So to the board, and I think you said you did not have any further proposed changes to the special permit beyond what we've reviewed at this point of time.
Correct.
Okay. Do any other members of this board have any other additional proposed changes to this document as before us now?
I just have one comment, which is I had two circled in, but I think I meant to say the tree shall be a specimen tree and located. Looks like there's needs to be something and be located in a place to best allow. Is it missing something? The tree shall be a specimen tree and located. It just seems to be hanging. Or am I wrong?
Hold on, it's 10-11, Peter. Yep, keep going. 10-11. Yep, okay. And be located.
Yeah, it's if you read the whole sentence, the tree shall be a specimen tree and located
To best allow its uninterrupted growth.
Okay, so it's
It's a way, I think what it's trying to say is put it in a place that's going to enable it to grow and reach its full potential and grow to its.
Yeah, did we say that and be located in a place that will best make it more clean? I know if I read it twice, I understand it, of course, but it takes a 2 times read to understand what it's trying to say, though.
Okay.
Yeah, if we can make it more simpler, that's all. But otherwise, it's fine.
I do think it gets more complicated to get more specific about where, because then it becomes how do you accomplish it, and you start saying things like X feet from this.
Okay.
I don't,
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Whether it's inside or it's outside the site,
Well, it's not going to be inside. I mean, it's definitely not going to be in the grave site because.
Not in the site, in this project site.
We could say in the proximity of.
I think it says that if you scroll up a little bit, it says in the vicinity of the burial site, but outside of the protective fence.
The specimen tree?
Yes.
Yeah, so in the vicinity of the burial site, but outside of the protective fence, a new white oak tree shall be planted in an area of prominence. So it's not hidden, it's seen.
So we see an applicant has the hand raised, Mr. Kendall.
Thank you. So just wanted to add, I assume everyone hasn't had a lot of time to look at the plans. The plans have been updated and show a proposed location.
Oh.
So, and it's in there, it's replacement, and I won't try to pronounce the species name. It's not called the white oak. Use the actual species name in the plan. So if you want, I can share that, but it's on page 46 of the PDF of the plans. So kind of shows you that it's within that same area, but it's on the updated plans.
Thank you. Okay. Lakshmi, I'm sorry, you were, what other things would you like to discuss?
I think that was one. The others, I think you already addressed. Thanks.
Okay. Deepa, are you okay?
I'm good, thanks.
So with that said, I think at this point we should shift over to the site plan review document. Please, Peter.
Where would we like to start?
I mean, if I'm the only one who's got edits, we can go to page 7 with the paragraph that begins with or has a title of minimize tree vegetation and soil removal and grade changes.
Okay, I am here. A.
Okay, so the sentence that begins with, oh, wow, this is already different. Huh, this is not the version I had. Hold on, let me catch up to you.
That should be dated September 29th. I'm sorry,
No, that's D.
Peter.
22nd.
You need to go to D, I think. You need
Oh,
to-
D.
Oh, yeah,
D as in
sorry.
dog.
Yes, thank
Oh,
you.
D is in dog. Okay.
Yes, thank you.
I said B is in boy.
Okay, yeah, okay, now I'm like, all right, what's going on? All right, so the sentence that starts with during the public comment, the planning board heard testimony and accepted a report by a certified arborist. The arborist did not testify. And so the way I would phrase this is the planning board received a report by a certified arborist.
Okay.
I mean, we broadly did hear testimony from the applicant. It was not from the certified arborist, but we heard testimony from the applicant and we accepted a report by the arborist, right?
We
Do you
could do
wanna
it
add
that way.
in- Do you
Well,
want
that's
to
what's
add
there.
in her
Says, though-
testimony by the applicant?
Yes.
So,
Her testimony by
you know,
the
from the
applicant.
applicant, whatever.
From the applicant. Yep. And accepted.
Accepted. Okay, and accepted a report by a certified arborist.
I think I have a correction on there too. If we continue down that same paragraph where it says, therefore, the planning board allows the removal of the existing white oak tree. I think we can take out, it should, I think, read, if the applicant chooses to, well, I put, if the applicant chooses to do so. I thought if chosen by the applicant sounded, maybe wasn't quite the right way to word it.
I
So
said
right
it-
now it says, therefore, the planning board allows the removal of the existing white oak tree if chosen by the applicant. And I just changed that, the existing white oak tree, if the applicant chooses to do so.
I
Can
actually,
we
I-
highlight the sentence we're talking about here? Because that last
Yeah.
sentence, that paragraph needs a little juice. So
Joe, just can we start? Can I say time out? Can I just? I lost everybody.
sure. So Trisha, you were going. So just let's get right into the sentence you're talking about. Is that it?
Okay,
so could I, sorry, go ahead, Tricia.
no, go up to, if we look on the right-hand side of the paragraph, there's a word that starts therefore. On the right, I'm sorry, on the left-hand side of the paragraph.
Yeah, therefore, right there. Midway through.
Therefore.
Therefore, the planning board.
Therefore, the planning board allows the removal of the
Peter, do you have it?
existing white oak tree if chosen by the applicant. And that didn't
Could
quite
we
make sense to me.
take that sentence out from that location and address it towards the end of the paragraph where we say what we are finding?
Yeah, I think we could
Because-
just delete it. Yep.
Yeah, because the beginning of that really reads
Yep.
more like, here's all the stuff we gathered, right? And
Mm.
by the way, that sentence due to the placement, right in the middle, it says it is found, the root structure. Can we change it to it is found that, the root structure?
I even took out it is found. Because I had that same edit, I just put the roof structure has,
Yeah.
the
That's
root
fine, too.
structure had
Yeah,
been-
so can we remove Peter? It is found.
Do you see how it says it is
It-
found?
yep. Just
Yeah.
delete those 3 words. So, so
And-
now the sentence reads, let's just read it quickly. Due to the placement of an existing concrete retaining wall thought to have been built during the construction of the existing Mindus School, the root structure has been significantly compromised, cutting off growth in one direction. I think that stands on its feet.
Right. And then it gets
Further-
tricky. Go ahead, Tricia.
So further, I'm just going to read it. Furthermore, the placement of the proposed school calls for the excavation of soil 8 feet from the center of the white oak, which will further compromise the existing root system. I think
So
that's
right
tight.
at that point,
Okay.
that next sentence, I'm not a fan of because it's inconsistent with kind of the other thing that we wrote. And my suggestion is the planning board finds that the applicant has full discretion to either save or remove the white oak if chosen by the applicant.
I'm okay with that sentence if we are okay with that sentence.
So basically, rather than the planning board shall allow for the removal, that whole thing goes away. Basically from, you know where it says existing root system, Peter?
So
Right, so right there, the planning board shall allow for the removal of the white oak is necessary for the
Right there, Peter.
development. That whole sentence, all the way to C special project is gone.
well, hold on before we delete here. So
And instead,
what does the rest of the board think?
well, can I give the replacement sentence as a contrast?
Shouldn't we
That's fine.
leave the C special project condition 1 though?
Yes, that would stay.
Okay.
A result, yeah. Okay, go ahead. Go
And
ahead,
the
Anna. propose.
replacement that I'm proposing is the planning board finds that the applicant has full discretion to either save or remove the white oak tree if chosen by the applicant. Or as
You're mute,
chosen by the
Tricia.
applicant.
I think the word finds is strange, you know, that the planning board finds that they have full discretion versus the planning board gives full discretion.
That's fine. The
Or-
planning board gives
So-
full discretion to the applicant to either save or remove the white oak tree as chosen by the applicant. And then it says C conditions.
As they deem fit, right? Like,
And then the rest of, say that again?
so the planning board finds, no, the planning board gives the applicant full discretion to either save or remove the white oak tree at their discretion, right? Because they're going to.
As chosen by the applicant.
Okay.
Or,
I mean,
And-
I think the sentence is there works. You just got to delete a couple of things from it, but
Yeah.
if we want to replace it with this other one, I'm fine. Let's just, what do we want to do? Like the existing sentence just needs a little bit of a tweak, right? So does the board want to go towards the new language or do we want to modify the existing sentence, which needs love?
I would be happy with just tweaking it, but
Yeah, let's tweak it. Does the
Okay,
planning
so-
board,
Here's what I would propose. The planning board shall allow for the removal of the white oak tree. Delete is necessary for the development of the new school facility. So, and then, but will require certain mitigation as a result. See special project condition 1, white oak. Therefore, that last sentence can go, in my opinion.
that's
Yeah,
simple.
that was just dumped
We-
from.
can
yeah,
we,
but I thought Anna wanted the discretion of the applicant to save or remove the tree, right? I thought that's why.
I want it clear that it's at the discretion of the applicant.
I think that's clear in the special condition, once they get there, that it's kind of given, you know, it's kind of what we just went over in the special condition. So
We have it in the special condition. We should have it here.
I don't think we need to have things exactly the same in 2 different places. This is a finding and that's a special condition. But it's, you know, they work together. It's all in the same document. So
I mean, the applicant has been clear that they're going to remove the tree, right? So we you know, they've sought our approval to remove the tree, right? And this document is providing that approval, right? So what do we want to do, guys?
I'm with your edits. I think your edits, Joe, are very simple. And I think this says shall allow. It doesn't say the applicant must remove the tree or anything like that. It just says it allow it. They can do it or not do it.
I'm
And-
good with this as well.
The last sentence, therefore, the planning board allows needs to be removed if that's what we're doing.
Yes.
So let's delete
That gets deleted.
Yep. So then
Okay.
back into
With
the
the other
sentence.
one also.
The necessary language should be
It
gone.
is necessary for the development of the new school facility. Delete that. Right. Keep the comma. Yep. Let's see what this looks like. Let's read it one time through.
The planning board shall allow the removal.
Planning board shall allow the removal of the white oak tree, but will require certain mitigations.
I still prefer language at the discretion of the applicant right after the tree. I think that is far more consistent with the other document.
So specifically, what are you proposing? Which sentence? The planning board shall.
That sentence, but right before the comma, where it says the planning board shall allow for the removal of the oak tree.
Okay.
At the
So if we
discretion
put
of the
in front
applicant.
of the planning board shall allow, if we put at the discretion of the applicant, comma, the planning board shall allow for the removal of the white oak tree.
Sure.
That's fine.
Okay, so in front of the planning board, Peter, up one row to the right. Peter, yep, right there. So yep, put your cursor there. Yep, at the discretion of the applicant. DIS, Peter. Okay. With the T instead of an S, discretion.
Is that it?
There you go. ION. Yep. Yep.
At the discretion of the applicant.
Yep. At the discretion of the applicant, which should be capital, right?
We've mostly been capitalizing, yes.
Okay.
Yep. At the discretion of the applicant, comma. And then, yep, the planning board shall allow for the removal of the white oak tree, but will require certain mitigation as a result. See special project condition 1, white oak tree. Okay.
That works for me.
Okay. Okay, so what was next on the review list here?
I think the rest seem okay.
I had no further changes.
So the one, okay, so the parking spaces are enumerated in the site plan approval, Peter, correct?
Correct.
So let's find those and change them to 38, please. If you hit Alt E F and 255, you'll find them.
Let's see.
All E.
I don't know if that's in this document. is
I
it?
could be wrong.
Yeah,
so,
it's not here.
No, it's not in
here.
this.
okay.
It's not in-
Apologies, guys.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
No results found.
Okay. So then the only other challenge we have is we did just make some tweaks to the special permit in the conditions section, correct?
And I'll
So
mirror those over.
we need, right, so we need to bring those over into here.
Yeah. And I can do that when I'm back in the office, if everyone feels comfortable.
Do we want to try to do it on the spot so we can vote on this thing?
Sure. However you want to do it.
All right, let's give Peter some time to concentrate on cutting and pasting.
Just some music interlude.
Let's try to help. Let's try to help Peter. So we had this in the special permit. Like, let's just try to just advise like where was it? So that was that. So
I mean, I believe it was just condition,
It was just the one condition.
Yeah, the one at one White Oak.
Mhm.
and we didn't actually change anything in A. I made a suggestion, but I don't think we changed anything. Is that right?
we did not change that.
We did not change
Yeah, we did
it.
not change anything there. We did not change anything in B, and I think we only changed something in C.
Yeah, see the. No, even then we didn't change, right?
No,
were
I don't think we-
we just discussed about the specimen tree, but we didn't change.
No, wait,
it.
hold on. I remember what we did. So we said the, there was one, we just did make one tweak, the following condition. So special project conditions number 1, if you could go there, Peter.
Should we just like cut and paste the whole white oak tree, the whole condition number 1?
Yeah, why don't I do that?
And then
Yeah.
we know it's exactly the same if we cut and paste it from,
Yeah.
just cut and paste it from the proper one.
If you go up,
Yeah, I'm not, oh, can you see?
you're on page 11 and 12, Peter.
Yeah, but I'm in special permit.
You're in the,
I'm in the document we did first.
the header on the top of the page says site plan approval. That's what I'm seeing right now.
Yeah, but you're not seeing what I'm looking at.
Ah, okay.
Nothing like a couple backseat drivers.
You got 5 of them, actually. I mean, it's not a couple.
I
it's
know.
a whole handful, so.
All right. I'm gonna take this out. Ooh.
Careful, Peter. What do you? Okay,
Okay. So
gotta
we,
go up. It looks like it got a little messed up. Okay,
it just
over
turned,
screen. Yeah.
it just didn't turn yellow.
Subject to the conditions below. Okay, yeah. I just think you need just go down to page 12. You need a space between if removal. Nope, back to the top page for a sec.
Oh,
You need space between if yep, hit it, enter. Yep, okay.
put a space here.
The memorial site should still be number 2. Yeah.
Yep.
Which it is. There you go.
And I think we said that we fixed somewhere that I see.
Sorry, Lakshmi, where were you saying?
I think we changed the word, right? That roots. I'm trying to find that here. I thought we had a word change that somewhere.
Well, if we cut and pasted the whole thing, it should be good.
Okay.
The one I remember is the permission in the very first paragraph was like kind of left hanging. And so if that's right, then we know we switched it.
Right.
I think we've got a few dates that need to get updated. So with regard to the revision date for the plans, the approved site plan holding a revision date of on page 14 in the site plan approval. What is the revision date on the most current plans is not September 1st. What would it be? It would be
It's
this
the
week.
22nd.
Okay, so should we just do that quickly?
Yeah. What page are you on? 14?
You're right there, Peter. Yeah. Yeah, September 22nd.
Yeah.
And then below, does it digital sign?
Mhm. I'll go, I'm gonna change all the dates back in the office to reflect the new plan.
Can you scroll down? Digital sign 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. 60% plus. We confirmed that at the last meeting.
Exterior envelope was from the last meeting.
Okay.
I think we just wanted to put in some sentence about approval conditioned on final review or approval by the third party.
Yes.
Yeah, we do need that condition. That's right. So,
I mean, we know that, is it CGC?
GCG consulting.
GCG?
GCG.
GCG. I always want to say it the opposite. GCG, we know that they have been working
Yeah.
throughout with the design team with the little tweaks that we don't even quite understand from their email, little heights of inverts and things.
I'm gonna say the town. I'm gonna say planning office. Prior to the commencement of work, the planning office shall receive final approval of the submitted. I'm gonna say final. Does that work? Prior to the commencement of work, the planning office shall receive final approval of the approval and review.
I was going to say, is approval the right term for the GCG? Do they approve something, or do they send, what is that?
Opinion
I'll say
letter.
final review. Final review. They usually write an email or a memo or something. Final review. I'll say memorialize within a memo. I say final sign off. Is that appropriate?
The sentence became more complicated.
It's supposed to be very simple.
I know. I should say prior to the commencement of work, the planning office shall.
Does this need to go in general conditions? Why can't it just go in special conditions? Just that the approval of this site plan is contingent upon the final sign off of the design plans by GCG.
Yeah, of the 60% plus construction set.
Yeah, like,
Or-
yeah. Is there an issue with putting it in special conditions? I'm
Nope.
not. Yeah.
I was just right there, so I did it, Joe. I'm sorry.
No,
Put in-
it's fine. So,
As a title, put third party approval, :
should we put peer review approval?
That's fine. Peer
Yeah.
review approval.
Yeah.
Sorry, Peter. You need an O where the I is.
Hoping I'm gonna get spell check. All right.
There we go.
Okay, prize to commence. I'm gonna say, Joe, do you want to
Yeah,
say?
yeah, let me take a stab. So, the planning board's approval of this site plan is contingent upon the final review by the town's third-party consultants, GCG. On the final review and sign off by the town's third-party consultants, GCG, by the, I don't know whether it's the applicants or the towns, but whatever I'm gonna say. Third-party consultants, GCG. Does that work for the rest of the board?
Yep, it works for me.
Good.
That works. Mhm.
Did you want to say site plan or just plans?
I wrote plan of record, plans of record.
Can you do site plan of record because there's two documents here, right?
And I'm gonna also write stormwater because they're all interrelated.
Well, why wouldn't you just put the 60% plus construction set then? You know, then you wouldn't have to name all those things, right?
Could we just say 60%? There's nothing called 60% plus, right?
I know, it's a little weird.
Yeah, so let's just say 60%, please.
Yeah,
How about site plans?
60% construction set. Don't they
Construction-
review the whole thing
construction
or no?
documents, yeah.
What's the right thing to say here? Peter,
Well, before we talked about 60% construction set, so.
Yeah, okay.
If we're
I'm
being,
gonna say 60% construction site plans, and I think we have nailed it with that.
so do they
Planning
only
board's
look at the
approval
site
is-
plans? Is that what you're saying?
Well, they review the stormwater and the site plans, the stormwater
Okay.
calculations with their site plans within all the basins, the underground utility, you know, the underground.
But you're saying they don't review the whole set, they just review parts of it.
No, they review they review the civil set.
Okay,
I think we know, I think we're good with what we have.
we gotta fix, just delete that and then let's just read it one more time. It needs one more touch. The planning board's approval of the 60% construction site plans with an S.
60%, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
Construction
I don't think we
document?
need do we need of record or can we just say is contingent? Of record is fine if it works. Of record
I think
is
getting,
contingent on the that. So I'll read it. The planning board's approval of the 60% construction site plans of record is contingent on the final review by the town's third-party consultants, GCG Associates.
looks great.
I'll let Peter have the word on that because he's dealing
Yep.
with GCG.
Yeah.
I think it just,
If it's good,
Bells and
yeah.
suspenders. Okay.
So why don't we copy that over to the other document and save them both?
Nope, copy. Yeah.
Peter, sorry, that sentence has been bothering me. Can we just add the planning board's approval of the site plan from 60% construction documents, please?
Sure. The planning board's approval of the site plans
From the 60% construction documents.
from,
No, the site plan from the 60%. Approval of the site plan from.
Planning board's approval of the site plan. From the 60% construction site plans of record.
Construction documents.
of record.
Sure.
Yes, lose the site plans, please.
Perfect. Okay.
Thank
How's
you.
that for
So
everybody?
now let's copy this back to the other one.
You guys are getting a little complicated here. for me.
Yeah, we're teaching you Word, Peter. We're like,
Yeah, and
this
we're
is-
making you do it live, so.
I know.
No,
Thank you very much.
copy, not copy.
Yeah. Jeez, you guys are seeing the front row seat. Hope this isn't primetime TV tonight, and
Can't see. We can't see it anymore. It is prime time.
you know, Thursday night, 8 o'clock. This is when Friends would be. All right.
Gotta fix peer review approval.
Yep.
Delete peer review approval.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay.
We are.
All right. So I think we made all the changes.
Peter, one minor one on that note 3, instead of saying exterior envelope, let's say building envelope. I think it's a note 3, yeah, further down.
Or the bottom.
Yeah, right there, right, the first line. Instead of saying exterior envelope, let's say building envelope.
We want to say building envelope.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, exterior building envelope, right?
No, building envelope kind of
Okay.
means
Sorry.
exterior.
Too many cooks.
I think last week we said it was exterior facade materials. So it's either that or this.
Okay.
We're getting into the weeds now.
You-
So is there anything else to the board? Is there anything else on the site plan approval that we need to discuss at this point of time? I don't hear anybody. Tricia, you're on mute.
I think that little change by Depot is the last one. Was that in both documents?
Yeah, it's in this one too. I think he just passed it.
Was it under building and design, I think, in the first section, maybe?
It's highlighted too.
Right there.
And then, two.
One more word.
Ooh.
You can do it, Peter.
Superintendent Adams has raised his hand there.
Yay, done.
Okay.
Hit save.
Okay.
Peter. I'm
Yeah,
gonna unmute Jim Adams. He's raising his hand.
It's up to you. You can do that as the chair, Joe.
Does the board have any objection?
No objection.
Oh, no
Right.
objection.
I just want to say in that document you were just in, it still says September 1. So you may want to adjust that, Peter, to,
Yeah,
Okay.
no, Jim, I'm gonna add in all the
okay.
correct
No,
dates
I know you
that
changed it in the
put
other
in
ones. I
there.
just want to make sure you didn't miss it.
Thank you so much.
You got it.
So we know that we're voting for the document with the dates changed to reflect the current documents. That Peter will do.
Yeah, unless you want to watch me do that all day, but
No, because
No.
you probably have to go back and see the exact date on different documents as well.
Yeah. and I go back and double check all the dates.
So,
Any motion could that language could be added into any motion.
so to the board, is there anything further at this time with regard to either of these two documents that we've been editing?
I don't have any further changes.
I'm good.
So I'm
the
going,
dates- it's the dates and the parking number that
the
needs.
parking number's been corrected in the one document where that's present.
Okay,
We did search in the other one. It doesn't appear to be present in the other document.
sorry, I missed that.
but
Thank you.
the dates, yes. So I'm going to talk through here a draft motion on this if the board feels that it's appropriate at this time.
I'm ready.
Deepa, Lakshmi, Anna, are you guys ready?
Yeah, ready. Yeah, we are ready.
Ready for it.
So again, I'm going to talk through the motion to just make sure that we get it right and squared up here. And Peter, you please contribute, keep us honest here.
Yep.
So just talking through it, would be I would entertain a motion to approve the site plan approval and design plan approval for the 90 Concord Street as amended this evening and reflective of updated date of final plan. Happy to take amendments to that. It's a little bit clunky.
I think it's good enough.
So just give me 1 second. So the header, site plan approval and design plan approval for 90 Concord Street. Okay, so I'm going to say it one more time and then I'll go through the draft motion for the special permit. So again, one more time through for the site plan approval and design plan approval. So I'd entertain a motion to approve the site plan approval and design plan approval for 90 Concord Street as amended this evening and reflective of updated date of final plan.
I think that sounds great.
Okay. With regard to the special permit, give me 15 seconds here. Okay. So with regard to the special permit, draft motion would be, I would entertain a motion to approve the special permit and site alteration permit for 90 Concord Street as amended this evening and reflective of updated date of final plan documents.
Sounds good.
Here.
Sounds good to me.
Okay. All right. So we'll obviously do a roll call vote for each. We'll start with the site plan approval. So I would entertain a motion to approve the site
Joe,
plan.
a minute. We
Go ahead.
first have to close the public hearing.
Great. Thank you, Peter. So give me a second. Okay, so I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing for the site plan approval and design plan approval for 90 Concord Street, as well as the special permit and site alteration permit.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Seconded.
A roll call vote. All those in favor?
Lakshmi Krishnan, aye.
Deepa Venkatai.
Anna Tesmanitsky, aye.
Trisha Kendall, aye.
Joe Rubertone, aye. The motion passes 5-0-0. The public hearing is closed. Any other pieces, Peter?
No, at this point, you can move forward with the two motions that you have
Thank you.
set up.
Thank you for catching that.
Mhm.
Okay, so at this time, I would entertain a motion to approve the site plan approval and design plan approval for 90 Concord Street as amended this evening and reflective of updated date of final plan documents.
So moved.
Do I have
Seconded.
a second?
Seconded.
We'll do a roll call vote.
Lakshmi Krishnan, I.
Deepa Venkatai.
Anna Tesmanitsky, aye.
Trisha Kendall, I.
Joe Rubertone, aye. The motion passes 5-0-0. Okay. At this time, I would entertain a motion to approve the special permit and site alteration permit for 90 Concord Street as amended this evening and reflective of the updated date of final plan documents.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
The roll call vote.
Lakshmi Krishnan, I.
Deepa Venkatai.
Anna Tesmanitsky, aye.
Trisha Kendall, I.
Joe Rubertone, aye. The motion passes 5-0-0. Okay. So at this point, having completed the first agenda item for 90 Concord Street, I am going to cease to act as chair of this meeting, and I will I won't hand anything, but Trisha Kendall will be acting as chair of this meeting from this point forward.
And before we go on to that, I just want to express my thanks to Joe for stepping forward to a very big job for a very important project in Ashland. And Joe, I really thank you for taking over during these couple months and taking that role on. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Trisha. I appreciate that.
All right, so.
Peter, you want to stop sharing your screen?
Yes.
And actually, before we go forward, why don't you tell us the next step? I believe we're going to, at some point, need to come in and sign both of these documents.
Yeah, so I will make the edits and when I get the plan set up and ready to go for everyone's signature, I will email everybody. Most likely that will be probably next Tuesday or Wednesday of next week, I would say. And then I'll email everybody out and you guys, everyone can kind of set up a time to come up in the office. Obviously, town hall is open for everybody. Yeah, you just do have to wear a mask and we can sign the document. And if you don't feel comfortable coming to town hall, I'm happy to meet you in the parking lot. Once that decision is signed, it goes into the town clerk's office where it's stamped in and the 20-day appeal period starts. All butters will be notified of the 20-day appeal period. And once that ends, if there's no appeal taken, the clerk will therefore sign off upon that decision. And then the project has a full permit from the planning board.
Great. Thank you for that summary, Peter.
No problem.
So if there are no other comments, we will move on to our second agenda item of the day, which is the continued public hearing for 0 Magunko Road site plan review. Peter, if I'm right, we don't need to do anything further to open this because it is already open and has been continued. Is that right?
Correct. That is a continued public hearing. And just to summarize, at the last meeting, the planning board, we did get a couple conceptual drawings. However, the planning board requested some renderings and some plans of the building and the development. So Mr. George Connors was able to provide those. And those plans, once submitted, were added to the website and uploaded under 0 Magunko Road. And then also tonight, Mr. George Connors is here tonight to represent the application. So I will be kind of handing it over to George. And I believe through an earlier conversation, George has asked me to share my screen and help provide him with the plans that he has submitted. So George, do you want to step forward and update the board on where everything kind of stands with this project? I'm going to unmute you, George. Actually, I'm going to make you a co-host.
You're going to share plans, I believe. You're going to put the plans up.
I'm happy to share the plans.
If you'd put up the landscape colored plan that we submitted from Sudbury Design Group.
Just
Best to start with, I think.
You wanted the landscape plans, George?
Yeah, I think that's the best one to start with, or you can start with our engineering plan, doesn't matter.
Okay.
The colored ones that we submitted.
Yep. I'm opening them up.
Okay.
That's not the colored one, I'm sorry. Okay, George, excuse me. All right, share screen. George, is it the colored rendering?
That's good. I think that's the best place to start. So
Okay.
this is the site. It's about 1.6, 1.7 acres. We have Magunko Road on the bottom of the site and Cherry Street to the right. The railroad is behind it, as you may know. And the proposal is to develop the site into two building sites. It was originally in the 2016 process, a single building, which changed to two most of the way through that process. And of course, the plan had been approved at that time and the permit had run out. They had installed sewer up Cherry Street to the site. The site is generally wooded except for the easterly side against Cherry Street, going into about where Unit 2-3 line is. That area is kind of opened up as a gravel pad to use various construction activities in the area. But from that line, somewhere around Unit 2-3, going to the west, it's all wooded all the way to that area that we show on the left as a kind of a pale color, yellowish green. That pale yellowish green area is a swamp and culvert that comes through from the south side of Magunko Road and then goes under the railroad into the drainage system out to the Sudbury River through downtown. That particular area has a stream going through that's been well channelized and has a riprap sides and bottoms. As we get to the existing railroad, there has been some impenetrable lining underneath where the entrance to that culvert is as a result of some work up at the Nyanza project. We're not going anywhere near that. We've gone through this project conservation. We've also had DEP and EPA look at that. Tom Williamson had done the LSP work on this for that at that time. The green area on the left side of the plan where is a wooded area. It's going to be remaining. That's the 25-foot ashland buffer zone. We're not going to touch that. We have a little bit of a drain outlet going and releasing water from the collection system on site to the northwest there. You can see that as the rock matrix shown. Basically, the site, if you were to draw a line through the middle of it, separating the two buildings, the drainage basin to the east would be draining out towards Cherry and Magunko, and the drainage basin to the left would be towards that existing complex. It changes dramatically in this particular site because of concerns about wetland and concerns about water and flooding on Cherry Street. So the new drainage divide is again roughly where building phase 1 is at the 2-3 line, and we've reduced that area by about two-thirds. And part of that reduction is that the water will go into those matrices shown hatched underneath in the front and the back of the site. The entire site is kind of developed other than that left portion for access to the front and the backs of the buildings. And we'll see the front and the backs of the buildings in a couple minutes. But basically, they're contractor garages, overhead doors on the front and the back. End unit 1 is indicated as sort of the sales office and the owner's office. And that will be a area that is a little bit more, I said, architectural details that we've talked about before. Overall, the lighting on the project is simply down lighting from the goosenecks that are going to be over doors and garage doors. really no light spillage out to the site. The site is going to be kind of leveled up to pretty substantial height above the existing road in order to allow for infiltration. And if we could go to the next plan, well, let me stay on this for one more minute. If you look at Cherry Street, you can see a set of stairs coming down as a gray color towards Cherry Street from sort of the front of the building. And then there's a sidewalk that is going along Cherry Street. There's an easement that's been proposed there in conjunction with your quiet zone work that has been underway with some design engineers over the years. So Lando is providing that easement and that section of sidewalk for that particular purpose. Other than that, the site is kind of landscaped around it to soften its impact in the area. However, noting that it is an industrial zone and noting that it is Magunko Road, when we get to the buildings, I think you'll see they're not too bad for the Magunko Road industrials. So if we could go to the
Can I just ask a question since we're on the topic of the sidewalk, Mr. Connors?
Yes.
Yeah. So the rendering that you've shown us of Cherry Street does clearly show a sidewalk and pedestrians on that sidewalk, right?
Yeah.
Right. So is this proposal providing that sidewalk in question?
Yes.
Okay. And so the stairs that you're referencing there, those are going from the proposed sidewalk into the parking lot?
Yes.
Okay. So the rendering that we see of that, it doesn't appear to have any grade change between the sidewalk and the building. So it's not a big deal, but I mean, how many stairs are we talking about there? Like 4 or 5?
Look at the big plan that I can.
I don't want to interrupt your flow. You keep moving. We can come back to it. I want to just put that on the tape. We'll put it in the parking lot for a minute. How's that?
Yeah, that's fine. I need to look at a big plan at my age.
Okay.
All right. So if we can go now to the engineered plan that's colored up, pretty much the same as this, but deals more with infrastructure.
Here's the,
That was the next page.
oh, this is the next page. You're right. I'm sorry.
Okay, so this is more the engineering design of the site. You can see these gray shaded areas. Those are the infiltration systems for the drainage, as I indicated a little bit earlier. So essentially, we're collecting the vast majority of our runoff from the site, from the impervious, and infiltrating it into the ground with overflows, as I indicated. You can see how they connect in towards the northwest edge of the site and then spill out on that spillway. The entire site is going to be collected, except for a very small section of the entranceways at Magunko Road, which there'll be water that simply flows out to Magunko Road, but that is reduced by the area that was contributory for it towards it. And the amounts of production are fairly substantial, 0.3 CFS in the 10-year storm towards Cherry Street to 0.1. And I think it's quite similar on the left side. The ability of the soils to accept runoff and infiltrate it into the ground has been documented, and the stormwater system has been approved. The sewer system had been run up from the intersection of Cherry and Park and is now on the site. You can see the yellow line going into the site and along beside the eastern section of the building, and then running along the back of the building towards the smaller one. And then water comes in the front section of the site, and it will terminate presently at the existing building, but it will be extended a little bit further when phase 2 takes place. The site, as I said, is a very small section of drainage going out towards McCunko from the drainage, but you can see a little bit of a trench drain going across the entrance at McCunko near Cherry Street. So that's pretty much that. If we could now go to.
Can I just, while we're on drainage?
Go ahead.
So these underground water retention systems, this is just a broad question, but obviously proximity to Nyanza, like there's no identified issue by anybody, including our peer review, with regard to using these underground retention facilities, putting these in place and using them in this location.
That's correct. We had Tom Williamson, our LSP, deal with DEP and EPA on this particular project. It's documented in what we had submitted in 2016.
Okay. And no complications with putting the retention basin in proximity to the train tracks or any of that? No concerns. It's got sufficient setback. There's no issues with regard to that.
That's correct. And they do have the overflow so that in times of a very excessive rainfall event, and the system will simply discharge to the existing wetlands at a reduced rate and at a reduced volume.
Peter, has this already been through peer review?
Yes.
Yes, in 2016, this entire project went through peer review. Actually, I found all documentation.
And isn't on the renderings, which I'm sure we'll see here in a minute, but on this one, it says pad area reserved for phase 2. Aren't the renderings, there's a building there on the renderings, right? Are we building, is that right?
Yes,
Correct.
yeah.
And so
This
we're
is
building.
a site plan. This is a site plan. They're going to build it in 2 phases. That came about through the
So are
process.
we, sorry. So are we thus looking to approve only phase 1 since we don't see plans of phase 2?
No, you have the plans for phase 2. That's the pad. They're going to prepare that pad and not put up the building until such time as they get units 1 through 5 or whatever that is rented out.
So if we're approving plans for if we're approving phase 1 and phase 2, then I think the plan should reflect a sewer and a water line that runs down to service that. Otherwise, if you build phase 2 and then you have to run those lines further, right? If we're approving both phases, shouldn't the lines be reflective as running down there?
They will run down there. It'll only have a binder course of pavement. And the only thing that will have to happen when they actually build that building is to run the sewer and the water down and the connections from floor drains out to the existing floor drain sewer system. So they're not going to change. They're not going to complete the entire site. It's going to take really not a long time to go from rent out to the second phase. Foundation will be put in place.
Yeah. So does that
mean add those in? I don't
this is a
care.
question, and this is a question for Peter. Peter, does that mean that is this application basically for approval of building the phase 1 and only a pad for phase 2? Or are we given, and the renderings are just showing what it would look like eventually if approval is given for phase 2 somewhere down the line? Can you clarify?
So I can. So I think, reviewing this application, reviewing what was submitted in 2016 is the application, and the applicant is looking for approval of both phases. I think what the applicant is trying to state is that the plan is to do the development 2 separate phases. And the phase 2 building will be a mirror image of phase 1 building. But I don't believe this application would not be coming back in front of the planning board for phase 2 approval.
Correct. That's correct.
So why I continue to have questions on that, but why, if these was all received in 2016, what's been the delay for this coming before the board? Is it just the applicant didn't want to move forward with it?
The applicant began by putting the sewer line in shortly after 2016, but the economy and then COVID, the reasons that he didn't proceed.
Okay.
And now he went to get a building permit, I don't know, less than a year or so ago, and determined or learned that it had been more than
Site
2
plan.
years.
The
It
site
was,
plan had expired.
Yeah.
I will say the applicant has continued to extend his order of conditions with the Conservation Commission, a wetland conservation commission. Excuse me, the order of conditions with the COMCOM Conservation Commission runs, I believe, for 3 years. Our site plan approval process is good for 2 years, and so at the time that the building permit was applied for, the building permit was denied because the applicant's site plan had collapsed. The applicant, however, on the other side of things, which would be the conservation permitting, has continued to get extensions upon that conservation permit. So currently at this point, the applicant has a live conservation order of conditions. However, his planning board site plan approval process has lapsed due to the time period between final approval and the application the denied application of the building permit. So in this scenario, we are in hence re-permitting what was already permitted in 2016. And the application the application has not changed in reviewing both cases.
And does the extension from the Conservation Commission include the fairly recent changes in stormwater requirements put by the state?
yes,
They do. And I think I asked this last time too, because the renderings were different than the plan. Just why isn't that second plan shown? I mean, it looks like the building, is this building slightly smaller? So the pad
It
is
is.
smaller?
yes, it is.
So it feels like we're given incomplete drawings. And I mean, it's a little strange. I mean, I know this firm is still Sudbury Design Group. They're still in operation. They're, I think, fairly active. And it's a little strange when we ask for a plan that's maybe easier to read, that we get the same plan that's just kind of colored in.
No,
And requires a lot of explanation.
No, this is just the infrastructure plan.
Yes, I understand that. But when I look at what we require of other applicants, I'm a little just a little disappointed, I guess, when you've had several weeks to provide something that's really clear, I guess.
I don't know why it's not clear. There's several sheets of this that break it down in component parts. This is just simply an illustrative drawing. In 2016, towards the end of the process, it was decided that they would break it into 2 phases. Everything's there. If you have a big problem with the sewer line in the back and the water line in the front extending another several feet, and the individual bays being drawn into phase 2, I think that's simple enough to do, but I don't understand why that's problematic, especially when the renderings, the perspective renderings clearly show how the building's been altered to meet the current day standards, vis-a-vis additional windows to a great extent.
Why don't we see the renderings? Why don't we see the renderings while we're talking?
Yeah.
Here is the front entrance. This was submitted obviously 9/16.
Mm.
Oh, excuse me. Can everyone see it?
That's the front.
Okay.
That's the end building, the Cherry Street end building.
This would be the phase one building, correct?
Yes. And as you note, there's a change with some architectural elements on the end of that building, the canopies, as we discussed last time. Still has the goose lights. There are all the windows and doors that have been added from the very early year layouts of the architectural details of the building. And they've added some planting boxes along the front of that, the end of that building. That's Gorman Richardson's concept of how this building will be built. As you know, there's going to be a metal building. It's going to have all the windows as shown, transom windows and the neck lights. And then the wall will come up from the base up about 4 feet and have a stone veneer cladding along it. And in some areas, it'll go up to the top as indicated on the east end of that particular building for some architectural detail beyond what a typical industrial building would have. You can go to another one if you want, Peter, please.
This is going to be the proposed back view coming up shortly.
Yeah, that's the rear of the first building. You can see the railroad out to the left.
And George, correct me, there's going to be no outdoor storage of any kind at this site, correct?
Correct.
That's in regards to the tenants, right? That's what we're referring to there.
Correct.
Yes. Contracted garage like plumbers or whatever.
Additionally, we can get there, but I know when we've dealt with these types of developed projects in the past, are these intended to be sold or rented bays?
Rented.
Okay, so, you know, I think in the past, in the instance of rented bays, we've looked at those rental agreements or the terms of those rent agreements, and it's, you know, I think we're looking to make sure that people are not going to, you know, be working outside. I understand no storage outside, but working outside in the parking lot, you know, the work is in the bays. It's not hanging out of the bays, depending on things.
So is
Yeah,
that
I think-
something, is that something that would typically be, that we would be looking at or requiring prior to approval, Joe? In this
I'm just going
instance?
back to 135 West Union, so it's a
Mhm.
similar thing, contractor bays. I just recall as talking through that at some point as one of the site plan approval.
Were those, I think those maybe were things we put in the conditions, isn't that?
Yeah, I'm getting ahead. I'm getting towards conditions, but I'm just.
Yeah.
just putting
No,
that-
no, I understand. I'm trying to remember that process myself. I'm a little hesitant to, I mean, I want the board obviously to jump in and ask questions. I'm a little hesitant to approve phase two. I can see moving forward with phase one. I'm a little hesitant to approve phase two without, I mean, I don't know if we ever approve anything without actually seeing a plan of it versus just a pad. You know, I know it's a simple building in this case. I know it's very straightforward, but that seems, it seems a little strange to me. It doesn't seem like something I've done before, at least.
I can change the plan to show the same thing as building one.
And I think we'd be looking for that. I mean, I'd like the board
think
to
that
weigh
works.
in, with, you know, if someone else.
That's fine. There's no problem with that. That's.
Yeah, I
Peter
think
Pan lines.
if we're being asked to do 1 and 2, I think just the little bit to make the pad site reflective of what we're going to do for phase 2 and run the drain, run the sewer and sewer and water out in the drawing.
Sure.
I would agree.
And
Do
I
these
would
go-
also,
Go
I also
ahead,
think
Jessica.
that plan needs to be, you know, I don't think we want to see something just penciled in on top of a PDF file. Like it needs to be integrated in with the drawings as if.
It will
it's a
be.
construct-
It will
as
be.
if it- Okay. It's just that these plans seem like they, I mean, obviously they were just colored on top of, you know, and so we were.
Yeah,
maybe-
that's what we did with 5
Yeah,
and 6,
we're-
7-year-old
We're just
plans.
maybe anticipating a little bit more, given the amount of time, you know, that you had to produce those documents.
They're to show where utilities and things are. I think the bulk of the time and effort was into Corman Richardson creating these bird's eye perspectives. The building, pretty simple thing, I think.
is.
I just pulled up the front view that would be seen from McGuckle Road, if anyone wants to comment on the plans.
Those are the two buildings. Yeah.
Correct, and this plan actually shows with phase 2, how phase 2 is located.
Is there any willingness to kind of plant some shrubs or some kind of divider, if you will, between the road, the view, and the building? Is there a possibility of kind of greening up that space a little bit?
Well, if this is just a bird's eye perspective rendering of what the site might look like, but if you go back to the original landscape plan by Sudbury Valley, it has many trees and shrubs and accent boulders shown on it.
Okay.
Matter of fact, there's a total of 905 plantings, 34 trees, 45
Can I-
shrubs.
Can I throw one thing onto the table just for just since 2016 on McGunkle Road, right? The town has made the investment in the trolley book trail down there. So, you know, the town's trying to create that linkage between downtown and, you know, using the trolley book trail, getting over towards the YMCA, getting towards the middle school, getting towards the YMCA, getting towards the significant number of housing units over on Memorial Drive, formerly the MBTA road. So I'm going to get to my punchline. You know, I like the sidewalk on Cherry Street. I think, you know, getting towards having some kind of sidewalk on McGunkle and, you know, again, just past where this is down by Alberini is where the access point to the trolley book trail is. So
I'm not
just-
familiar with Alberini. Can you give me a little bit better?
yeah, so can I share my screen really quickly, Peter?
Sure.
Apologies, George.
That's
Yeah.
fine.
Just one second. I'm getting there. Okay, can you guys see my screen?
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah, so right here,
Oh.
can you guys see my mouse?
yes.
All right, so right here is where we're talking. This is where
Right.
this is going to happen, right? And so right here, right over here is the access point to this trail, right? Which is cutting down through here.
On the
And-
railroad, the
the-
old trolley.
Yeah, the old trolley book trail, right? So the access point's right here, where my mouse is kind of right on this edge of, there's Alberini Inspection Services.
Yeah, yeah.
So all I'm driving at is, we've got a sidewalk here. That's awesome. I appreciate that being thought of. You know, my point is, you know, it might make sense if the applicant's willing is to do a sidewalk here, which kind of does a nice connection, sidewalk connection to the trolley book trail. And maybe that's in lieu of, depends on what the rest of the board thinks, but if that's something the applicant's willing to entertain, maybe that's in lieu of plantings or other things. I think it's an opportunity to connect an asset the town's invested in and that Trolley Brook as, you know, as part of this, you know, as part of this project. So just food for thought. I'm thinking
I'll
out
be
loud.
happy to talk to him and talk to Peter about that.
Yeah.
I can't offer that
No,
myself.
I totally understand. And I don't know how the rest of the board feels. So that's just my,
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that's,
I think that's very consistent with the bylaw definitions of what we are expecting in the downtown district as far as walkability and the spirit of what we're hoping to achieve. So I would second that question. And George, if you can look into it, that'd be helpful.
Okay,
yeah.
let's talk to them.
So the things then that we would be looking for are the question about the addition of a sidewalk in order to connect with the trail. Given this sidewalk, then potential, well, I guess there are additional plantings that are there, but to make sure we can understand those in the documentation. And then to have, if we're looking for an approval of both phases, it's nice to have the drawing of phase one to show that what would be built first, but I think we also need to know phase two in something besides a rendering, that there has to be a plan on file that we approved for phase two. Does the rest of the board agree with me?
I'll change the plan. There's no problem with that.
I think that'd be great. And it would be really helpful, I think, to see just if the applicant is willing to give us some detail about that sidewalk concept, if there's a path there that's used by bicyclists or pedestrians, to have the applicant show us a visual of how that might be consistent with the development and sort of connect the dots. That'd be helpful to have that visual that we're not getting right now of what it looks like.
Given that might be unknown to the owner of the property, it might be, Peter, is that something we can?
Yeah, I'm
Is there
happy to
information
reach
we
out.
can provide there? I don't know much about it myself.
Yeah, so I can provide obviously the a little bit of detail, a little bit, shed some light on it. As Joe mentioned, so the town is undergoing a project which is called the Charlie Brook Trail, which is about a half-a-mile trail, which is going to Lake Memorial Drive, which is also going to be at the other end, which will hopefully be where the YMCA was granted that parcel back a few years ago, which was known as Lot A, where where Metro West YMCA is going to headquarter their new facility. I'm sorry, is where their new headquarter facility will sit. So the trail is it's a beautiful trail. It's going to be about 10-foot wide, paved with a bridge over a wetland area, and then it will enter.
It's built right now. Like you can see it. Like it's.
Oh yeah,
there.
it's built. Yeah.
So are there drawings and a website or documentation that we can direct the applicant to?
I have all the drawings, and myself and Jim Ball have been working on this moment, as within time. So I have all the information. I can share that with George, and I can share it with the planning board at the next meeting, and then kind of go from there, I would say. But yeah, it's going to be a 10-foot wide paved path that will link Memorial Drive to McGunko Road in the downtown. If anybody wants to drive down Memorial Drive, it's visible. You'll be able to see it.
You can see it.
I can tell you the footings have been poured for the bridge, which hopefully will be set. I would probably say early next week, and hopefully we're going to have the pavement on the trail done by Halloween.
Okay, sounds good. Does anyone else have any questions or comments on this project?
Yeah, Trish, I think you had made a comment on the roof, right? You had said there's so many other types of roofs that could have been done here. You had a suggestion. I only have a comment. Trish's comment on roof is all I have. So I don't know whether you remember what you had a suggestion that this roof you could have used a different kind of.
I think I have to go back and look, frankly. But I think it was about a small roof over the door, over the entryway, which I think that's new on the, to kind of mark the entranceway on that side. So, right, so now there's a little canopy roof, I think, over the door, just to give more, like, make it look, because across the street from that is housing. Granted, it's a housing apartments, I think, and then kind of next to it is the dance studio. So while it's, my point was that while this is in an industrial zone, it's not, it's kind of right on the edge of that. It kind of borders the industrial residential. So there's some responsibility there to kind of nicely, to be a nice neighbor, I guess. Yeah.
We added in the canopies there. If you can go back to the east end of the building rendering from Scott.
Yeah, and those help to give it like a more of a residential scale and just a more welcoming facade when you're walking down that sidewalk. So I appreciate that. I think it's just that from where we are now in the planning board, which maybe have been different than in the first application, the requirements are just different now, and we're trying to be consistent across the board with different projects. And so we're looking to fill in those gaps before we offer an approval.
Mhm.
If the planning board doesn't have any comments at the moment, I see Joe Magnani's hands up.
I mean, the only thing I was gonna say is I think Joe, Joe's comment about that path is really insightful and helpful, because I was just reading the bylaw and kind of what we want to see in that area as far as the downtown district and, the vibrancy, the activity, the multi-use, if you will, with the dance school right there. I can see kind of a connection, not only between the path and this building, but also between, maybe some bike racks that you can offer for increasing, less traffic use, more human use of that path and that neighborhood, and adding a little bit of a pedestrian / cyclist feel to it, so that it's a little bit more utilized actively rather than just kind of an industrial zone. And it's more consistent with our bylaws that way. So I guess if the applicant is unwilling to do sidewalks, can you give us some idea of maybe bike racks, extra parking for the public to use for the path, anything that you can think of to sort of mold into the area more?
Hey, I've got that written down.
All right. I'm actually not sure how to unmute.
You want me to ask Joe to
Mr.
unmute?
Magnani. What was that?
I can click ask to unmute so that I can,
Oh, okay.
there he is.
Joe, you're on.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to ask a question. I'm not sure if the applicant, when they was doing design back in 2016, had any thought about the quiet zone and the design of the quiet zone in that specific area, because the zone itself is going to affect the roadway, and it's going to affect the sidewalks to some degree. And looking at one of the designs that was presented, I saw a rendering of sidewalks, and there was going to be a traffic island that was part of the design that was going to go from the railroad tracks all the way down to Park Road to eliminate left turn access onto Magunko Road. Now that.
So is this a change in the Ashland street system? Like changes in?
This was
that's
part of the
affecting-
quiet zone design that was designed through the feds and what their requirements were for a quiet zone, because you were getting rid of the gates and there would be no more whistle blowing back and forth. So this is one of the designs to keep traffic at a minimal, especially truck traffic. So I wasn't sure whether or not Mr. Connor's group and the folks, the owner over there, was aware of that. And I just wanted to make sure. And I know it's on the back burner, but it's still it will be coming back into the discussion and working on it. So I just wanted to make sure that they were aware of it. So if they had changed their design prior to, that's great. And if they hadn't, they may want to reconsider, some tweaking of that specific area, especially on Cherry. Thank you, Madam Chair.
The
Thank you.
design accommodates that. We were aware of it. And as a matter of fact, you needed land in order to affect that. And this particular applicant has created that land for you in terms of granting an easement for it.
Thank you, Mr. Connors. I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, any further questions or comments? I mean, then, Peter, I think we're looking to continue this one more time and get all the documentation and
Yes.
understand a little bit more about the sidewalks.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I said that. I had to move. So yeah, no, we can continue this with Mr. Connors. Obviously, I'm happy to work with George. And George, if you want to meet me on site, I can kind of show you the Trolley Brook Trail a little bit more.
That would be very helpful.
Yeah, no, we can set that up. We can do that. Our next meeting is going to be on October 14th. As the planning board knows, Village of the Americas will be returning that night right now. Mr. Connors, the next meeting after that would be the 28th of October. Those are the two meetings I would like to talk, at least kind of discuss on continuing this matter until. George, do you want to be on the agenda on the 14th? Do you think documents can be turned around
Sure.
in that time frame?
Yes.
Okay.
So why don't we suggest, I would suggest, and we can make a formal motion in a minute, but I would suggest putting him on the October 14th, first thing at 7:15, because
Okay.
before we get involved with 100 Chestnut Street. And Peter, I would ask that, I know Mr. Connors has been very patient as we spent a lot of time on these larger complex projects. And so that if you could really help guide that process so that when the project is presented again on the 14th, we're really sure that we have all the materials we need to move forward.
Sure. That's no problem. And tomorrow, George, I'll reach out to you and try to set up a date to go meet on Magunko Road.
Anna, did you have a question?
I did. And Peter, would you be able, just for my education and perhaps other planning board members may find it helpful, would you be able the next meeting to tell us a little bit more about that trail and kind of give us an idea of what the town may be wanting to accomplish with it, and kind of any kind of documents relative to that we can kind of find helpful to the planning board as far as kind of what we want to see with that trail in Ashland, and, you know, anything you can share with us that might shed light on that.
Peter, I can share over the applications, the CPC. So
Okay.
the project was partially funded by the CPC. So I can share to you, Peter, the application that gives some context for the concept behind the trail. I'm sure you have a ton of other documents. So
Yeah, I have a bunch of documents.
Yeah, I'm especially curious about like where people park to access the trail. Do we need more parking in the community for that? Where's the starting and end points, right? Where are the expected points of high interest for entering this trail? Like, I know if I'm going to a bike trail, I know where to park, and some of the parking in other communities might be at a private company. So I'm kind of curious what we're visualizing for this trail and what the needs of the community are that impact this particular zone. And I'm especially curious as to what we're doing relative to the dance center. Like, is there any abutter interest in this project? Have we gotten anything from the dance center as far as like the impact of this project? Has that been discussed at all, Peter?
So no, I haven't heard from the
Okay.
dance center. I believe the dance center leases as a tenant of that existing building. And then we can kind of, I do not have a direct contact, but then I can also reach out through our economic development coordinator to see if I can speak with the dance
Yeah,
center.
I'd like to, I mean, if other planning board members are interested, I would find that helpful just to hear from that business as to what their needs might be. Do they have a lot of walkers? Do students walk there from school somehow? Do they get dropped off by parents? Like, what could that look like that might help that community?
I think those are fair questions. I think we also need to understand that, relatively speaking, this is a pretty small site, even relative to the dance
Yep.
center, I think. So also don't want to be putting an undue burden on a small
Absolutely.
landowner.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to go above and
From-
beyond, but
from my perspective, I'll just say that, I mean, from my perspective, I think it's all good stuff. From my perspective, I mean, I think if the applicant is, you know, willing to do sidewalks, nice bituminous sidewalks on Cherry and Magunko, like, I think that's a serious
Yes.
investment, you know what I mean? So but I am, as a single member, I mean, that's just my view. I think it's meaningful. But.
let me rephrase the dance center issue. Are we aware, because this has been before the planning board before, Peter, has there been any complaint from any abutter or the dance center about this development? If there hasn't, we don't need to go there.
No, I haven't. And
Okay.
And Anna, I would also reach out and I would throw, invite any planning board member if they want to come and walk around that area with me. I'm happy to. It's right across from town hall, and there's a lot of moving parts in this little section, right? There are.
Can I show you something? Like, I'll just to give you some color, Anna. So again, this is the access point to the trail here, right here. Okay. So you have parking here at Stone Park.
Yep.
Right. And you also have parking here in Town Hall.
Yep.
Right. So I mean, there is some meaningful public parking where somebody could, park and then
and
access.
that little corner at Tilton and Cherry is actually owned by, on the opposite side of the track as this parcel is actually owned by the town, Anna. And a few years ago, across the street from Richard's upholstery, one down, Joe. It's abandoned. It's actually
Right below Tilton Street.
Right below Tilton Street. And right now, if you drive by there, the town has actually laid down the traffic lights for the downtown there. That lot is owned by the town, and there is a goal and there is a vision set many years ago to help to develop that area as a parking lot for town-owned.
Perfect. Okay. It sounds
and
like
that would be done after the completion and/or with the completion of the downtown project.
Okay. So in
But
that
right
case,
now, it's used for a construction laid out.
understood. That's really helpful. I mean, in that case, I'm going to sort of simplify this, and I'm with Joe that if the applicant is willing to do that sidewalk, that's magic to my ears, and I'd be very happy.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll reach out to George tomorrow, and we can continue this till October 14th. Is that acceptable to you, Mr. Connors?
It is, thank you.
Okay, sounds good. Oh, we'll make a motion.
So in that case, I will entertain a motion to continue the public hearing for 0 McGunkel Road to October 14th at 7:15 p.m.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Lakshmi Krishnan, aye.
Deepa Venkatai.
Anna Tesmanitsky, aye.
Joe Rubertone, aye.
And Trisha Kendall, aye. That passes 5-0-0.
Thank you.
We will see you in 2 weeks, Mr. Connors.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on, because we love these long meetings. Item number 4 was the ANR plan, which has been continued. I believe, Peter, you just said also to Thursday, October 14th. I would imagine would be the second item on our list.
Yes.
And then we have item 5, review the submitted landscape plan for 128 Main Street.
Correct.
This is not a public hearing, so we don't have to officially open anything. Is that right?
No, that is correct. That is correct.
Do we need to continue the public hearing with regard to the ANR?
Yes, we would just need a vote for a motion to continue and accept that. I sent out that letter that was sent by Angela Confortier from FRE Building Company earlier today.
Great.
If everyone would like, I can read this into the public record. On September 23rd, which was received today and also is filed at the town clerk's office. Dear members of the planning board, the applicant of 100-130 Chestnut Street, approval not required plan endorsement, Ashland Chestnut Realty LLC and the Bellingham Residential Number 2 Realty LLC respectfully request that the planning board continue its public hearing on the above referenced application from September 23rd, 2001 until a meeting on Thursday, October 14th, 2021. New paragraph. This continuance is requested to allow the applicant time to review town council's comment regarding lots conforming with the town of Ashland zoning code. And it is signed by Angela Confortier, they're the counsel for FRE Building Council.
All right, then unless there are questions, I will entertain a motion to continue the NAR plan public hearing. Is it a public hearing?
No, we can call it a public hearing.
Public hearing. And when, well, we'll be continuing it, sorry, as I said before, Thursday, October 14th at
we can put this at
7:45.
45.
So moved.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Roll call vote.
Lakshmi Krishnan, I.
Deepa Venkatai.
Anna Tesmanitsky, aye.
Joe Rubertone, aye.
And Trisha Kendall, aye, so that passes 5-0-0. Thank you for that reminder, Joe. And so now we are going to be looking at the landscape plan for 128 Main. Peter, can you give us just a little
Sure.
background on that?
So the applicant, Carlos Hansi, and he is the developer of the building, and he has a landscape plan which dates back to 2018 that was approved by the planning board. And with the development of the building, Mr. Hansi is proposing some landscaping features on the property line that abut the bank property to really, I believe, help soften that property line and to fit in within the downtown area. This application is going to be represented by Stephen Cosmo, who is a landscape architect who is actually on this call tonight. So Steve, if you want to say any words and or represent this proposal to the planning board, this would be the time to step forward. And I can ask you to unmute.
There we go. Hello, good evening. So yeah, it's a relatively simple little plan, just trying to get some softening along the frontage adjacent to the bank parking lot. So there's the big existing tree that will remain.
Peter, do you have this up? Could you share your screen?
Yep, I'm bringing the screen up right
Oh,
now.
sorry, Peter, I don't have it up there.
Because the original landscape plan actually didn't show, I have that in front of me. There really was very little landscaping, almost none at all in the original landscaping for the side facing the bank. Is that correct?
Correct. And actually,
Okay.
Trish, if you just give me 2 seconds, I'm actually going to bring up both of them.
Okay.
I just have to do some maneuver. Excuse me. Everyone's seeing my computer skills tonight, which are not that great.
When is Emma coming back?
Not soon enough.
Peter, nobody said your computer skills weren't any good, Peter. Nobody said that. Don't put words in our mouth.
That actually isn't the plan, Peter.
I know it's not.
Oh, okay.
I just want to mention, so this is the landscaping plan that was approved in 2018. With this plan, there were 5, I believe, red oak trees that would be planted in the rear. There was no proposed screening along the property line of the bank. The tree is existing, obviously, that we, the planning board, wanted to make sure that was stayed, and that I believe is a large pin oak, if I'm not mistaken, Steve.
I think you're right. Yeah.
On this proposal, right at that corner where that pin oak stands, there was a proposed 2-inch caliper crabapple tree.
Yeah.
And then also there were proposed landscaping strips and/or planters that would be in the front, under the front canopy. So this was the approved plan dating back to 2018. With that said, oh, Steve, there you are.
Yep.
I am going to pull up the plan, and Steve, this is the, geez, I'm sorry. I thought I opened it.
Oh, you did too. I think it was on the same PDF screen.
I think I just have too much stuff up. Yep, there it is. All right, can everyone see that?
Not really. Can you zoom in a bit on it? If you
Yep.
can get that. And then slide it up. There we go. Great.
All right.
So, you know, unfortunately, there is not much room here. So I've used, relatively, so what I've used is some PJM rhododendron along, closest to the sidewalk area. So there'll be some evergreen and some Hicks yews. And then beyond that, some spirea and feather reed grass. The space just gets narrower and tighter. And then we reach these gas meters, and there was really no ability to plant there. So what we're proposing is a 6-foot white vinyl fence from that point to the back of, to that second to the last bump out in the building. That's right. Thank you, Peter. So that's where the fence would go to screen. Essentially, there's an apartment where that gate is. There's an apartment with some windows that look right out to the parking lot of the bank. The tenants actually requested some kind of a privacy screen just so that their windows aren't getting light all the time. So that was the point of the fence in part, as well as to screen those gas meters.
Yeah, there's a lot of gas meters there. That's definitely a big panel.
Yeah. And then along the back, I changed the oak trees to red maples and a tree lilac along the side in that back parking area. And there are some perennials in here. I put in some insomnia, which can be, 3 feet high during this growing season, but it's a perennial, so it'll disappear, and some daylilies.
Did you do the first plan, Steve?
Thankfully, no.
Just a question. So can you just, can you just explain a little bit about like your preference for the red maple versus the oak? It does seem like very little space there.
Yeah, I guess I don't even know if I actually saw a plan with the oak on it, but I guess most people don't really want oaks over a parking area.
Acorns.
Bombard the cars with acorns.
There is also like the border to the rear of that is the cemetery, and there's it's a field stone wall there, is it not?
Right, yes.
Yeah. And there are also bollards there as well, not pictured, but those are installed, right?
Yes, along the side.
Yeah.
To keep people from driving off the parking lot into the bank parking lot, because it's raised up there. That line at the bottom there of the parking lot is actually a wall.
So I don't know how the rest of the board feels. Like, how do you guys feel about a vinyl fence, white vinyl fence there? I mean, I think a fence is creative use. I think it's good. I do think that's the toughest optics on that building. It's the business side. But what do you guys think?
I think that provides the privacy, because I think the ATM, the drive-through window is facing that side of the apartment, right? So it provides privacy, right? So I think the drive-through window for that bank is on that side.
Yeah. All I was going for was material more, Lakshmi.
Oh, okay.
How do you feel about the vinyl? Like, there's obviously pros and cons versus a cedar or wood or more natural wood fence. That's where my head was, but I don't know.
Well, there is a white fence on the other side of the building that the church actually owns.
Yeah.
It's around the playground, but it faces the whole other facade is that white fence on the other side of this property.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So we're certainly open to whatever the board would like to see there.
I think certainly there's a matter of wanting to kind of be in harmony with the building that's there, with the white trim on the building and so on and so forth. Maintenance is an issue, how what fences would stand up to kind of that kind of environment and just stay looking good for many years with kind of a minimum amount of maintenance. Is there other options you would propose? Was vinyl proposed just for cost? I mean, vinyl fences can be expensive too, but
Not really. I mean, it was really just for the reasons that you've just mentioned, just for the maintenance, and it seems to work better with the building. It's not, a rustic finished building, so.
right.
And there are certainly better quality white vinyl fences these days than, because my concern about the fence is the bank parking lot and the snow removal, and it's got to hold up to all that. I mean, it's right there at the edge of the parking lot.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's I'm okay with a vinyl fence, but like you said, there's different qualities of them that have different characteristics. We've all seen the ones that are not so nice, and there's ones that are actually that do a really good job. And so we just want to make sure maybe that it's has some degree of integrity, for the site. But I'm really happy with the plantings. I mean, I don't know all these different types of plants, but before there was nothing. And so I think the approach as you come down the street to see all these plants will be, a big improvement. So, and I like the red maples as well. I imagine they'll have some really nice color in the fall.
One question on the maples, are those generally salt resistant? Because they're going to be taking a beating from that. So how do they do with heavy salt?
Yeah, they should be fine with it. I mean, I would think that he wouldn't salt out there. I'm not sure if he will or not.
I'm pretty sure so I'm sorry, Mr. Cosmos. I'm pretty sure the conditions on this one require him to remove all the snow or darn near all of it.
Right.
There's very little snow storage on that site.
Right.
There just really isn't enough room. And that corner is like that back corner that looks like an empty box at the top of the drawing. That's an electrical piece of electrical equipment. So there's really no place to store. He's going to haul off. So yeah, I don't know.
The red maples are fine. They're used as street trees all the time. So
they grow fast.
Yeah, I mean, it's an urban tolerant, tree.
Okay.
So it should be fine.
I'm good. That's all.
As long as the plows don't destroy it, they come straight at it. I mean, it's a tight little site.
Is there any other questions or comments on this plan?
I'm good.
I'm good. The white color stands out to me a bit, but I guess it's a very small section and does the job of kind of helping those residents in that side of the building.
Yeah, I think given the very light color of the building itself, that it would maybe blend in from a distance.
Yeah, I hope so, because it feels like obviously it's a sudden start and a stop. There's no defined starting point there, but I guess you're right. It may just gel in with the surroundings, because it looks like the bank had a lot more white facade treatment on that side.
I don't know if having a lattice topper has any appeal, how they have the lattice at the top, or if that's just getting a little fussy.
I'm hesitant to put, that the planning board should review the type of fence, as we get ourselves into reviewing all kinds of finishes here.
Yeah, I think we should be fine, Trisha.
Okay, Trish, and I can just jump. I've worked. My speak. I'm happy to work with Steve and Carlos to make sure that the fence is of high quality.
Okay.
And maybe we can say that the applicant shall submit, a sample, of this fence to me, and I can take a look at it and send it out and/or approve it before installation, I would say.
Okay, so that we could, assuming planning board agreement, we could approve the site plan on the condition that the fence type and quality will be
Submitted to the planning office.
submitted to the planning office. And then if any one of the planning board wants to come down to review that or contribute to the discussion, they can.
Great.
Is that appropriate, Peter?
Yeah, I think that's a very good way to move this forward. So,
Okay.
That sounds great. I appreciate that, and we can easily get you that submitted.
Do we need I assume we need a formal vote on that, right, Peter?
yeah,
Or
yes,
no?
we can take a formal vote. We have one hand.
There-
raised.
Yeah.
Let's see. I will
I can
ask to
ask them
unmute.
to.
Hey, good evening, Steve Morgan, 136 Concord Street. I do have a public comment if you're opening this up for public comment at this point. It's not like you were going to a vote without public comment, but I do have a comment on the project.
Oh, that's fine. I lost track of who was sitting on the meeting.
Okay, no problem. So I attended most of the meetings about this project. I guess I'm concerned that this isn't installed yet, but the building's been open for several years. I would also note that there was a lot of discussion in the meetings that I attended in and around the right of way to the cemetery. There's a historic cemetery, as you pointed out, I think, Mr. Robertone. And, I would think that we should be installing what was requested in the plan originally and figuring out why it's not there already. In regard to the side, there was a lot of discussion about the side because they insisted the building be right on the property line. I think there are some windows even here that can't be open for fire code. I note that those gas meters need a minimum of 2 feet per OSHA guidelines and 3 feet per building code for maintenance. And it looks like you're putting a fence in front of them. There are already some bollards there that arguably are too close. And so I think someone needs to really get over there and measure that because, I think it's great to put the vegetation, but this building has always been known not to have a pedestrian side or and to have been put intentionally too close to the boundary with the bank. And that's not new information. So I think you really need to look at that maintenance access issue and fire code issue. I don't know if Peter, maybe you've got that handy, but I know the minimum on OSHA codes for any equipment maintenance is 2 feet. And for an aisleway for fire code, you need at least 3 feet. I think some people argue it's 48 inches, but it's a minimum of 3 feet. So if you're creating an enclosed space, you need a pedestrian aisleway, which is not blocked by vegetation. If you start getting into a fire exit around a fire, this is again a gas meter, so it's a potential hazard. So you could check it probably with Eversource. But those are my comments, and I would ask the planning board to review the whole plan and make sure the features that are missing that never got installed get installed, because that access way and the gates and such by the dumpster, they're not installed. I was out there about 2 months ago when I was looking at the other cemetery at Mendez. I took photos, I can share them with the board. And this right of way to the cemetery, which there are 2 of them. There's this one and there's the other one, which is over off of Concord Street, are not being properly maintained by the town. And this applicant has known that right of way was there when they built the project, and they agreed to build a gate and certain features in their landscape plan, and it's not there. So those are my comments. If anybody wants to answer those questions, I'd appreciate it.
All right, thank you. Peter, do you have any information on that or things that might be missing at this time or that's still needed to be completed?
No, I think the landscaping is the one thing that has to be completed. I've been over the site many times reviewing this. I actually met with Carlos and Steve out on the site, and I don't believe any of those items are missed. The only one item that on this property that is missing is the landscaping and the 5 trees in the rear. Obviously, those were held off upon until the greater landscaping plan was produced. I can't speak, and I do not know about the OSHA requirements regarding the area, regarding the area around the gas meters and the electrical meters, but I'm happy to look into that and work with the applicant and Steve on that one. I think the most important thing here is due to the essence of this is a good planting season. I know the applicant was looking to forward to, moving forward to planting the vegetation. I believe the trees in the back match what was previously approved in 2018. And I believe the applicant should be able to at least, move forward with the vegetation as proposed, I will say.
Give a
So I
comment on the
think
gate.
We're not,
I think the access in front of the gas meters and such can be reviewed with Doug Scott. He should be under his purview to look at those and make sure everything is okay, as well as confirming that everything that was proposed on the original site plan is a go and being constructed. But I think as far as the discussion, like you said, about that actual vegetation that we're talking about, which would be all the front part of this, perhaps minus the fence until it's confirmed that we have enough space to do so, as well as the trees in back, which were on the original plan. It doesn't seem like there'd be anything holding up the greenery in this project. Is that fair?
I think that's fair to say.
Can I just ask one quick question?
Sure.
Please.
Yeah, so I'm just going back in my memory, and was there in the final plan, there is an easement into that cemetery. Was there a gate? Was that part of the final? I don't think there was a gate.
I don't think there was a gate, Joe.
Yeah,
I really
because
don't.
the stone wall stops, right? And then you just have a flat, I can't get an aerial image of it. You have just a flat walk between the back of that lot and then into the cemetery, because the stone wall stops at some point, does it not?
Yes, but I think that's more over on the church side of things.
Towards the church side?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Correct me. I could be corrected wrong. I just, but I can take a look tomorrow if need be.
Again, all I'm saying here, Peter, is if it was on the plans that there was to be a gate or some or to an extent something of that mind, like I feel like they should come through with it. But if it wasn't in the plans, then it is what it is. I still think a person could transit from that parking lot into the cemetery from the back of that, right?
Okay.
Meaning access the easement, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So what would be the appropriate move here, for the committee to approve the planting of the greenery with a review of the fence and any other missing components as per the original landscape plan?
I think that's a good motion. I think we can have per the review of the fence in relationship to building and federal codes, and then any other project, any other items that are left that may or may not have completed. Like I said, I've reviewed it fairly thoroughly, especially upon occupancy, which was actually granted. Correct me if I'm wrong, but if it was this past, I believe February, final occupancies were granted in that building.
Joe, you're most familiar with this project. Would you be comfortable making a motion on how to proceed?
Sure. I just try to jot it. Just give me a second to gather it. How did you put it, Tricia? What was the term you used for the greenery?
I was saying we proceed with I don't know the word I used, but proceed with the proceed with the plantings as shown.
Yeah.
But hold off on any of the hard surfaces, I guess, the built objects.
And there was the built object, yes. And I
Maybe
think
the fence and the gate.
With the built objects, fence and/or gate to be reviewed at a future date by the board.
Right.
All right. So here I've got it. So I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna practice it and then tell me. So I would make a motion to approve the planting. I would make a motion to approve the plantings as depicted in the landscape plan for 128 Main Street with the built objects, fence and the gate to be reviewed at a future date by the planning board.
Sounds good to me.
So we want
I'll-
the applicant to come back and review the gate.
Right.
And the-
Yeah,
Any
I-
other outstanding features, I
Yeah.
guess, that
Okay.
are in.
If there's a gate on the final plan, they need to live up to that final decision. So-
Okay.
And if there's not a gate, there's not a gate, and that's fine. I'm not asking to create one. It's just what was in that plan needs to be delivered. So,
Okay.
all right. So I make a motion to approve the plantings as depicted in the landscape plan for 128 Main Street with the built objects, fence and gate to be reviewed at a future date by the planning board.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Roll call vote?
Lakshmi Krishnan, aye.
Deepa Venkatai.
Anna Tesmanitsky, aye.
Joe Rubertone, aye.
And Trisha Kendall, aye. So that passes 500. Happy planting, and we will see you at a future date.
And
Right.
Steve, I just want to say, before you go, Steve, I just want to first acknowledge publicly that Steve has been helping with the redesign of Marathon Park down on Pleasant Street. And so I just want to thank Steve for that. And then also, Steve, I can reach out to you and Carlos and work on the process regarding the fence, I would say.
Great. Thank you
All
very
right. And it's
much.
been a pleasure to
Steve-
work with Steve.
Steve, thank you for your help with Marathon Park. That's fantastic. I didn't know that. Appreciate it very much.
Yeah, it's gonna look a little new and improved. We're trying to help the curb appeal over there
It's awesome. It'll be
Awesome.
great.
and get rid of all the invasives. It's gone crazy over there. So thanks a lot. Have a good night.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good night, Steve.
Thanks.
All right, next item on our agenda is being continued. That was the design review committee nominee of Kathy Rooney, because she could not make tonight, and probably also are still running longer than we anticipated. In the interest of time, would it be better to review the response for the open meeting law? Can we do that? And then go back to the minutes to see how many we get through before we get too tired?
Can do that.
Okay. So Peter, why don't you take that one from here, as I don't know what to do with it.
Okay, so the planning board received the open meeting law violation, and it was date stamped, excuse me. I just have to pull together my material. I'm just gonna, am I sharing I'm just gonna stop sharing my screen.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's
it's
fine.
gonna take 30 seconds. Take this stuff up. File, save. So I can.
Sorry, guys. I stepped away for a second. Did I?
No, I'm still pulling stuff up. I'm sorry, Joe.
Oh, it's fine.
So with that said, I'm gonna share my screen on September 8th. I just have to reorganize. It's September 8th. The planning board received the open meeting violation from Mr. Steve Morgan, date stamped September 8th. And this is concerning, as I scroll down, meeting minutes. And I believe I can read this. Failure to comply with the meeting minutes. Minutes are not taken during the meeting. Apparently these are being transcribed after the fact and are late. Failure to provide minutes when requested. I made a request on or about August 23rd, and I was only some minutes were provided. Otherwise they were noted as not available even in draft. Failure to timely approve minutes, 30 days or 2 meetings. Minutes were not approved at the same time or the requested further passage of time. CB. So I think everyone can read this. I don't think I need to read it.
And we're good.
we're good. So I'm just going to scroll down to the rest of the document. And really, this pertains to a set of minutes that we are looking at.
Right.
And we are going here, and the minutes here are from September. He noted June 12th, September, July 15th, July 22nd, July 29th, and August 12th. With that said, I am going to stop sharing my screen, and I can also I can cite, well, and/or what we did is town council provided us with a proposed response, which will be sent off to the state regarding this open meeting law violation. And this is dated September 2020. Excuse me.
Got another one tonight.
Excuse me?
We've got another one tonight.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't think we should talk about that, Joe.
I'm not gonna.
Okay. Just in case, you know, I don't know the proper procedures regarding that.
Yep.
So,
Sorry.
with this said, this is the letter that was drafted by our council, and it will be sent up to Boston, obviously, in response.
Date of complaint, August 23rd.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't approved the August 23rd minutes, right?
No, we have not. We're still,
Okay.
we have them on our agenda for
We
tonight.
had edits, right? We had edits to them. Okay.
Yeah, we have a couple. And I apologize, I sent those, we talked about them, in the last meeting. And we have them tonight on our agenda, which would be we start on July 22nd.
Very soon we're going to have a meeting just to approve our minutes now. The rate we go.
Yeah, the way we're going. So I can continue on, last paragraph.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So the planning board, the process to move forward first be for the planning board to vote to accept this response that was drafted by town council, and then I will work with the town clerk's office, who is the keeper of all records, and they will be able to send this off to the state.
Tricia, would you like me to make a motion?
Please, why don't we, Mr. Morgan has his hand raised. We are running late, but I will give him just a couple minutes to speak if you would like to do so. You were unmuted, Mr. Morgan.
Thank you. So I'd just like to comment for clarification. So the open meeting law process allows complaints to get resolved and not submitted to the state. And so there might be some misunderstanding on the part of the planner, but if a response addresses the concern and is agreed upon, it never goes to the state, never gets put on record, never gets reviewed any further than this board. It appears from the draft, which I now see, that the board is in agreement that it has failed to keep its minutes current. So I'd be looking for the board to agree to prioritize the minutes and to bring the minutes current to resolve the complaint. But I don't know if there's any interest in committing to doing that. I mean, I saw you were putting priority on approving other projects and not your minutes, but I just would remind the board that that is an option, and that is part of how the process works with the state. The first effort is to resolve at the board level and then have it not go up to the state. So I would hope that given that you've admitted you're late, which I think there's really little question of, that you would put some steps in place to fix that. And that's really, I guess, to the extent that you want to obtain my agreement on that, I'm happy to do that as long as reasonable steps are taken.
We can discuss that. I think maybe we should first discuss if we should give Emma a severe reprimand for having a child and setting our schedule off in this way. So maybe that's something we will want to vote on as well. Does any of the planning board have any comments about how we should proceed with this?
We have a bunch of the minutes ready, right, to review to the best of our ability. And I guess my question for Mr. Morgan would be, knowing that the reason we got behind are stated in this letter, now that he's reviewed this letter, is he still pursuing this complaint or is he withdrawing it? Since we're in the process of trying to approve these minutes.
I will ask to unmute.
Yeah, so that's a good question. I guess I'm certainly not trying to suggest that Emma having a child has anything to do with the minutes, and the town has many admin staff that can support the planning board. So I would hope that you can ensure or take some action with the town manager to ensure that you have the support you need from in the planning office and not be impacted by someone out on maternity leave. But I am open to seeing these things get approved and put a process in place that this won't happen again. This isn't the first time, as I noted in my complaint, that the board's gotten behind on minutes. So it's not an isolated case. But again, it's a question of prioritization. And obviously you didn't prioritize the minutes. You prioritized approving another project tonight that didn't even get drafted fully yet. So thank you.
All right, thank you. From my perspective, I think the planning board should keep its own counsel about the meeting minutes and not to make necessarily deals or agreements with outside parties. That we understand our priorities better than anyone and the things that we need to do in town and the things that may limit our ability to stay on that agenda. It's very easy to say that, oh, there's lots of staff that can take this on, when everyone knows that it's very busy all around. So my recommendation, I will let the board speak first about which direction we might want to head here.
I mean, I support the letter going out as drafted. The reason I asked Mr. Morgan if he was withdrawing it is the letter seems to offer a reasonable explanation, and I was hoping he would withdraw his complaint. So I'm saddened to hear he will not, despite the details in the letter. Because I think we are trying, and we're gonna work on passing a few minutes, hopefully today. So that's too bad. I hope Mr. Morgan, you'll change your mind, and I certainly approve the letter as is.
Thank you, Anna. Well stated. Anyone else want to comment?
I mean, it's clearly on our agenda to deal with the backlog of minutes. It's pretty clear why we got where we got. I don't, this board has been sitting in meetings from 7 p.m. till 11 o'clock. We've done more of those in the last month and a half than I can even recall. So, I mean, I think as a volunteer board, the commitment and the time that's been put into carrying out the town's business is pretty clear. I think it's unfortunate that Mr. Morgan sees us in such a poor light and sees us as he sees us. So I definitely think we should send the letter. I think it spells out the case, it justifies it, and I think we should just go forward with doing the minutes that we had on the agenda tonight and just getting them all approved and done. So that's my opinion.
And the only other thing I wanted to add is I understand the concerns of the public when it comes to minutes and things like that. But we are public servants who are, volunteers in a sense. We're elected, but we're here voluntarily, and I think we're doing the very, very best that we can. And I commend the efforts of the board in trying to do that in light of the heavy, serious, intense discussions we've had and long meetings. So I just wanted to reinforce that because that's important.
Deepa or Lakshmi, do you have anything you want
to
add?
Yeah, I agree. I agree with the letter. Maybe we should just send it if the complaint is not going to withdraw it.
I agree as well. Let's just file the send one.
All right, then I will make a motion, assuming that is the proper thing to do, that the letter responding to the open meeting law complaint will be, is approved and to be sent as noted.
I'll second that. Or, I'm sorry.
So moved.
Sorry,
Okay.
thank you. I'll second that.
So I so moved it. I moved it, and then she seconded. Sorry.
Okay, great. And roll call vote?
Lakshmi Krishnan, aye.
Deepa Venkatai.
Anna Tesmanitsky, aye.
Joe Raton, aye.
Trisha Kendall, aye. That is vote of 500. So we now can move on to the very exciting meeting minutes.
All right, thank you so much, everybody. So the first meeting minutes on our to-do list, I'm going to say, are July 22nd, 2021.
It looks like Anna already edited it.
I did. I had some edits. I think Trisha did not have time to review them at the last very long meeting we had, which is understandable because we tried to review them, but we ran out of time.
And I would say I did review, I didn't go back and look at the tape, but I reviewed the meeting minutes for 90 Concord Street. I did the ones for 100 Chestnut Street. I was paying particular attention, obviously, to the statements that I had made to make sure they were accurate, because there's a lot of information here. But I didn't go back to compare everything on the tape, but I know that you did in order to make these meeting minutes as accurate as possible. So I don't have any edits at this time.
I don't have any other time.
Does anybody have any edits?
No, I don't have any.
Okay. All right. I knew everyone looked very focused. I didn't want to awkwardly interrupt.
Does anyone need more time? It is a long document.
No, it looks good.
All right, then I'll entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes from July 22nd, 2021.
Also move.
Seconded.
Roll call vote?
Lakshmi Krishnan, aye.
Deepa Venkatai.
Anna Tesmanitsky, aye.
Joe Raton, aye.
And Trisha Kendall, aye. Those are approved 500. On to July
I think it's July 29th. and I think
29th, which I think in the minutes you have July 27th, but I think
it's
it
a
is
ty- I
July
had a
29th.
I had a typo. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
No problem.
So we're on July 27, right?
29.
29. Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah, they're actually July 29th. I have a few questions on here. Line 48, 49. It says also in the parking area, a tree will be planted at every 8th parking spot and the planting will be used to screen the area. They were talking about not planting trees in the middle, but planting more trees along the edge because the original application was already looking for the parking, the islands outside of the parking lot. Is that right? I believe our bylaws say when you don't plant the trees in the middle, you kind of move them to the outside, basically. And they had talked about planting additional trees around the parking area. So I just thought maybe we should add that in, that the trees are planted around the parking area and not within it.
Okay with that addition.
Sorry, Tricia, can I ask about one? Are you still in the midst?
I guess the change would just be, maybe it's just, instead of also in the parking area, it might just be also around the parking area.
Which line? I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, we're on 48 and 49. It's the last sentence of the paragraph.
So the sentence.
After hydro seeding, after hydro seeding.
Yeah, after hydro seeding, because I think it's implying that there should be trees in the middle,
Mhm.
but we never saw plans to planning board with the trees in the middle because that had already been, if I remember correctly, that was already part of what they were asking for from day one, was to take the islands out.
Correct.
So I would just change the in to around the parking area. A tree will be planted at every 8th parking spot, because I think that's what we actually talked about.
It was around the perimeter.
Around the perimeter, right.
Yeah, so I'm gonna change that to say also around the perimeter of the parking area, a tree will be planted.
Okay. Yeah, because I think that's what we actually discussed.
Mhm.
All right, Joe, you have one?
Yeah, so we get into rows 58 through 70. So this is the July 29th set, right? That's what we're
Mhm.
looking at, correct? Okay.
Yes.
My recollection here was that Mr. Kendall talked about, like, there's some very basic math that you can do that produces a much smaller number of parking spaces that were required, and that, you know, it was like that was the standard set of math. It was a smaller number, but that, you know, based on, you know, additional thought and kind of computation, that the 250 was really the proposed number of spaces. So I can't recall if it was this meeting or an earlier meeting, so I just may be mistaken, but like I remember him saying, like, he hated, like, it was frustrating to even have to talk about it, but that was like the baseline math. So I just don't see that in the minutes, and if this isn't this meeting, then it's a throwaway comment. But do you guys have a recollection of that?
There's been, unfortunately, because the parking was discussed a couple of times, it's hard to say yes, it was that meeting without hearing it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I wonder if we should.
I'm not super concerned. Like, I'm not. I just.
Yeah.
It was part of the conversation. It was part of the parking discussion. I just want to make sure it's in the minutes somewhere in one of them, right? Because it was what was said. It's what, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
I don't have a recollection that it was this meeting or another meeting. It was one of the earlier meetings, and this was.
Yeah, it was probably mentioned or re-mentioned again at this meeting if we were talking about parking, because I do remember something too. I think it came up numerous times, not just once.
And this was Mr. Husseini, who was like, he was the guy, he was the expert, the vice president principal. And
yes,
you know,
if it was the meeting where he was present, that's the one where he did the talking. So yes.
Yeah. So this is Mr. Husseini.
Yeah.
Correct.
So I think you're
So I do think that should be captured in here, and I just don't see it. Like, again, I just want it to be an accurate portrayal of the discussion. I remember it was frustrating math because it didn't take into account a lot of other things, and produces like a 139 number, which, you know, nobody thought was the right way to go with this, and that, you know, doing other math or computation, they got to the 250. So I guess if it's not captured here, I can't recreate it. I can't give it to us.
I think if you recall that it was the same meeting where there was testimony or input from Mr. Husseini, then I think if that's your recollection, this is that meeting.
Yeah.
So
The problem is I just can't recall enough of the detail of what Paul said that.
I think I recall this. I recall this, and the nature of it was that the formula is not the formula is not the most, maybe the way to say it is that Mr. Kendall indicated the formula used does not take into consideration other important data, something like that.
Right. Okay.
Is
Yeah,
that-
I mean, I'm fine with that, but there was some specific to it. There was a
Okay.
specific number produced. I don't know why 139 stands out in my head, but whatever.
Is this- Peter, is this something you can go back and investigate?
I
and-
can go back and investigate. Now that the decision is gonna be rendered, I can.
Yeah. I'm not trying to drag this out. I'm sorry. Yeah, I understand.
No, I agree with you. I don't think it's land use. I think we talked about multiple factors that he built into the formula
Right.
calculation. And then I think the conversation went down the avenue of, is this the right number? And is this the right number from a ground, like when we ground truth it, when I mean ground truth, are you know, obviously the residents of Ashland, are the parents going to the Christmas Carol and it's the parents going to X, Y, and Z?
Yeah, and that's how they got to the 250.
And they got to the 250 because after they calculated the formula, I would say in their gut, right, which isn't obviously scientific, they felt like the number did not meet the actual need or the demand from the community.
Right.
And so
Right.
that's why they drove that number up. So I can
Right.
go back, because I disagree with the term land use personally, and then I can kind of go back into the film.
Yeah.
So is this
So
something, is this
Back to-
something that we need to come back to approve, or is this something that we can approve? I mean, we have to look at the other edits, of course, but approve on Peter adding in that statement, or do we need to revisit these minutes? I guess is my question. Is this a big enough change where we need to revisit these minutes?
Why don't we take a stab at drafting it? I like Peter's summary. That sounds right
Okay.
as to what was said.
Yeah.
But Anna, there was a specific number that was referenced.
Oh, you want an actual number? I mean,
Well, I'm
yeah.
okay with it. I'm okay without it if we think we can accomplish it. Like, I'm willing to go. I'm willing.
yeah.
I'm willing.
I have been avoiding this for a long time, but do you want me to go down the hall and see if he has a number?
That's okay.
I'll take 139.
That's okay. No,
I probably know the guy who knows the number. I'm just
I think you
saying.
might. Yeah.
I've been denying it for like 2 months, but I kind of know it.
I'll try to take a stab at it and put it together. I think the major item that you're trying to get to is there was a calculation. The calculation was made up on school enrollment, school size, land area, and then what the number formulated did not meet, I would say, the local knowledge and the demand that the Mendez School has regarding traffic and/or parking.
Right. I mean, I think that's a nice summary. I think that captures it, Peter. So,
I don't think we need the actual number.
yeah, fine.
I think,
So,
I mean, it'd be nice to have it, but I think we should err on that summary and wrap that one up. If folks are comfortable.
I'm fine. I'm fine with that. I got a couple of other quick
Yeah,
ones
of
here.
course.
So 72. So this paragraph is kind of leaning on the prior paragraphs. Mr. Rubertone asked if installing a solar array was considered. So Mr. Rubertone asked if installing a solar array above the parking lot was considered. And then the response, Mr. Kendall responded that photovoltaics on the building's roof and the parking lot are included in the proposed plans. So, like, I just find that whole sentence to be factually incorrect. The discussion was that the drawing showed photovoltaics on the roof, that the photovoltaics on the roof of the building or the school are not funded, you know, as part of the package. So they're fully ready to go, but it was not part of the funding for it. So day one, the school's built, the solar panels aren't there. They're set up to go, but it's not part of the overall financing package. So 72 and 73 are just like, I think the second sentence should go, and there probably should be something else there, but.
Yeah, and I don't know exactly what was said. I don't know if he said that the photovoltaic infrastructure, you know,
Yeah.
is included in the proposed plans, or if he said those things are are meant to be included in the future, like there's many ways
Just
we
was
understand.
clear that in the $85 million that you're doing with this, you're not getting the solar panels on the roof. Like
Right.
the rendering show it, it's set up for it, but that's going to be a future commitment from the town, right?
That's right. That's
yeah.
right. So we understood it, but it doesn't say that here.
Exactly. It says they're included in the proposed plans. Like that's just, yes, visually they are, but that's it.
I'm going to
Right,
change that. I think
Okay.
I can edit that, and I understand what you're going. I can fix that easily.
All I'm doing is to just try to make them say what happened. That's all.
I have that highlighted too, Joe.
Yeah.
The other thing I have is just slightly down from that on line 85. He noted that 65,000 will be used for snow storage and snow piles of approximately 3 inches high.
No.
Would that be right? That's a big snowstorm.
Yeah.
Was that supposed to be 3 feet or 30 feet or 13 feet? So I have no idea what that number should be, but I'm pretty sure it's not 3 inches.
I'd put my money on 3 feet.
I think it's just 3 feet.
If it's
Okay,
30
3
feet, I'm going to be jumping off the top of that onto other snow.
It could be 13. I mean, 3 feet is.
Joe, you may be losing your boot in that one, but
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, that's not. That's almost nothing. 3 feet. You could have that much snow just in a season without plowing, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I don't think it's 3 feet either. I don't know what it is, but.
But he said 65,000 square foot site area can be used for snow storage and snow piles. So take 3 feet and spread it out over 65,000 square feet, and you've got that's a lot of stuff, right?
Yeah, it's just not usually how you store snow, though.
Sure. Yeah.
You don't spread it all over.
Right. You're right.
what if I can go back and find the number, and/or I would just delete of approximately 3 inches high and just say it's snow storage and snow piles, period.
Seems reasonable.
Okay.
So going back to 75 and 76, again, I just it's kind of hanging out here. Mr. Kendall explained the building's future expansion plan, which is on the east side of the building. I mean, I remember Mr. Kendall talking about that in the green space to the east side of the building, that there would be an opportunity to build one additional pod there in the future if it was needed, right? He talked about that. And then the second sentence, transitioning the parking area into green space or for future expansion would not be feasible due to the geothermal well. So that this is just like that 76 and 77. My recollection is that was a response to my kind of crazy question about could we shift parking, and I think it was in response to one of the comments that was provided. I don't know, but I just don't know what's happening in 75 through 77. I think it kind of makes me nervous that these aren't the best minutes.
Well, if you want, Joe, I can go back and try to go through the video.
Yeah, well, look, I'm not trying to be a pain, but like, what does the rest of the board think? Like, there's a bad.
I mean, I was going to say the next set of minutes, to August 12th, I definitely want to go back to the video. And so if I'm going to be asking the board to give me some time to clean up some of those things, I think it's fair to give us some time for this one too. It's not a perfect system, and these are complex.
If we're going to get something right, these are the ones to get really right. Like,
yeah, and we want the public is not going to be listening to hours of video, and we want these minutes to be accurate. So it's a public interest issue to get it right.
So should we leave both July 29th and August 12th go until next time?
I'm okay with that if the rest of the board is, so that
Can we get a firm commit though, Peter, that by the next meeting we can get those addressed so that they can be done and voted?
Yes.
I know you're shorthanded, so I'm not.
No, I'm good. You know what? I'm just, the last couple of weeks have been so focused on Mendez and this decision and things. I think I'll be honest with you, I think now we're in a better place, at least in the office, where I can kind of move on from my main focus, which was Mendez School, and all these other ones are kind of small. So this will only take me a couple of minutes in the office, so I have no problem with that, Joe.
We're trying to do the right thing here, and we may be suffer
trust me.
consequences for it, but like
As a planner that's worked in, I know 20 years down the line, because I've done it in the office, right? For other, not this board, sometimes this board, but the other boards, you go back and you look at a couple things, right? You look at a final site plan, you look at a decision, and then you go back and look at minutes, right? And those are the three things you go to. They're the building blocks of how to understand what happened and what transpired, right? And so there's been many circumstances where I've gone back and tried to find minutes to see what the thinking was of the planning board. So I agree that if obviously we had an OML complaint, we're going to issue that. But in the meantime, if the board would like, I can put the draft up of these minutes online.
Yes.
And I could do that. That's another thing I was going to mention going into the administrative matters is once I do have a draft of the minutes, I'm just going to put them up online for people to take a look at. And obviously, once we approve them, I'll switch them out and put out the PDF of the approved minutes.
That sounds good.
So I think we can do that. Okay. So the July 29th, and I'll correct that, we can move to the next meeting on October 14th.
As well as the August 12th.
And as well as the
Gonna
October
ask
12th.
for.
The August 12th, and then the September 10th meeting, Tricia,
Those are ready. I think we can take care of now. This was the very short meeting that Lakshmi Deepa and I attended to review the public safety building exterior colors and materials as per the condition that we had for that building. The rest of you weren't there, but I had already sent them before making these meeting minutes. I had sent draft minutes to see if Deepa or Lakshmi remembered or wanted to, if I had anything wrong in the minutes before creating them. So I think they're pretty, if they saw anything additional, obviously we can change it.
No, I think we're all set. We reviewed it.
Yeah, it was a very focused meeting on the color palette. So you nailed it.
All right, so, and like I said, I think we're the only three that can actually vote on that, right?
correct.
So, okay, well then I will, with the three of us, entertain a motion to approve the September 10th, 2021 minutes as written. Someone going to accept the motion?
Yeah.
Lakshmi, you want a second?
Second it.
Roll call vote.
Lakshmi Krishnan, aye.
Deepa Venkatai.
And Trisha Kendall, aye, so that is approved. 300, or do we say 30?
3-0.
3-0?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Okay.
And Trisha, the tree discussion on the number of trees being replaced, that was discussed on the August 12th one.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Okay, so I will move those meetings. I'll approve, but I'll send the town clerk and tomorrow the approved meeting minutes for them to post up online. And then we can continue on with the 29th and the 12th at the next meeting, I will say.
Yeah, and those are long meetings, Peter, so if you do need some help going through them and we could each take a chunk too, if you're finding that you just can't get to it, so.
Yeah.
They are very long, so.
Yeah.
I'll reach out to people if I need help on it.
Okay.
Yeah. Please give the homework over the weekend.
I mean, the
Oh, yeah. I have soccer practice last week.
It took me 6 hours to listen to the meeting that I missed because I couldn't do it in one stretch.
I mean, I do think there's some benefit to us as individual members if there's a quote of what we're saying to be the ones to look at it ourselves and get Peter input to help him along, right? So like the August 12th has a bunch of stuff that I said, and I will take the responsibility to find that in the audio and things that I'm not, you know, that I have edits, I will get to you, Peter. So you can watch as much of it as you want, but I'll try to get you my chunks to kind of help out.
Okay. I just have to get through the ZBA meeting next Tuesday,
Yeah.
and then I'll be good to go.
Okay.
So that's where my main focus will switch to after tonight. I will say that. So
I'm
along with the
curious
other
on the
elements.
meeting minutes, is this a format that's kind of set? Is it more I said, you said that is documented, or the content? Like, it feels like it'd be so much easier to know line items on different topics versus I said, XYZ said. Is that a format that is defined somewhere of how meeting minutes are prepared? I'm just curious.
It's supposed to be like as it happened, though. It's like it's effectively like a transcript, right?
Okay.
But it doesn't have to be a transcript. It definitely doesn't have to be word for word. It's supposed to be more of a
Summary.
summary.
Yeah, like for example, this project, especially the experience of this project, right? There's so many topics that had so much importance to so many different community members. So it'd be so much easier if it was topic based, like parking or kind of exterior facade when design review did, or kind of more topic based versus like XYZ said, because we are bored, right? Any decision, it's done combined. It's not one person. So I was just curious.
No, I can say I've seen, obviously I've seen it both ways, right? Obviously, the meeting minutes are done for the planning board in a transcript manner, right? And someone actually just tries to transcribe the meeting videos per se, right? In other areas, in other meetings, in other, I would say, committees and other communities, it's a general summary. I've seen also bullet points, which obviously make it a little bit easier when you start trying to kind of list items of interest, right? And so there's no right or wrong, I would say, Deepa. In my eyes, it's just a matter of preference.
Yeah, that thought triggered when you mentioned, Peter, that after 20 years, right, if you have to go back to these notes, all of us will change. This Zoom phase will change, and it's more the content that we have to focus on. So I was just curious, it'd be so much easier if it was more focused on a topic versus. But I guess.
Deepa, hold on a minute, Deepa. You're saying you're not going to be on the planning board in 20 years? Come on. You kidding me? I don't even want to. I'm not even going to listen to this. Nope.
No, but I just feel like
way.
it's like, even like, right, the projects that are coming back now, it's so much easier if it was more content based versus it can get painful, right? These are very big projects. This is going to be in town for a long time. So I was just curious. I mean, I know I write meeting minutes for all the work that I do, and I try to simplify it because when I talk engineers language, it's like I don't know what I'm talking about 1 week later when I read it back. So
yeah, no, it's a good point to understand a little bit more about. It would be good just to understand what the options are and why we're choosing the ones that we do, so.
And trust me, if the planning board wants to try to move in a different direction to more of a summary based meeting minutes, I have no issue with that,
We will keep it in mind as we move forward, but we probably have other bigger things we want to discuss on our retreat when it happens.
I agree.
So meeting minutes are very exciting, so.
Okay. So
I think the only thing we have then left is the doodle poll, administrative matters. And there's a bullet point for the doodle poll. Is that something you're just reminding people of, Peter, or?
Yeah, so Trisha, Anna, and I believe Latchme already filled it out. And so we're just waiting for Joe and Deepa.
Oh, was that why Joe went off? Because he was embarrassed that he hasn't done it yet?
I was just trying to just do it really quick. Like,
I apologize.
like a kid doing his homework right in class.
Yeah.
So Peter, it was, I think it tricked me. I didn't know there was a second page to it. After I did the first 2 dates, then I didn't realize there was a third page, and I like second page. So
There is.
Oh.
I didn't do no second page, so
Yeah, I
I'll
didn't know.
take-
too. I
I'll
thought it was
take the
just one page.
vegetable option.
Well, I have to apologize because I was on Zurich time. I don't know if you.
I
was in
know.
the-
I
was
get
in the
it from
wrong
Peter,
time.
and it was like my options were like Saturday at 4 a.m. I'm like,
For some reason,
Yeah.
it was my doodle, right? And
I was
had
like, I guess I'm not coming to this. Yeah.
was my preference
unless we're
time
going
zone.
there for the retreat, I don't mind.
Yeah. My
I mean, I only
preference
saw the
time
last
zone
one, so
was
I didn't
Zurich.
know why you sent out so many doodle polls. I just
Yeah.
looked at the last one, so I didn't.
I
see
have
it.
done sunrise hikes, and I'm happy to watch the sunrise with you guys anytime. Right? That would be a bonding experience and a retreat for sure.
Yeah.
It's already crossed midnight party.
Why don't we
so
just
we'll
keep
do
this
it.
going? We'll just keep it going, and we'll do the sunrise. Not a problem.
So yeah. So once I get that, I'll send out a couple. I'll send the dates that work, and we can kind of go from there.
Yeah.
So, not a big deal.
Peter, so I know I was trying to be selfish because I have my other board meeting. So like this week, it was Monday, Tuesday, Thursday nights, all till 11 o'clock. So I was just curious to find a week that way. But our next two board meetings are October 14th and
The 28th,
28th. Okay.
correct. And I tried to stay away from. I believe maybe I.
No,
did.
we had 13th. We had 13th. And I have my second Tuesday board meeting. So it was like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And I was like, no, I just
How
can't.
about
do
we
that.
take the 20th? How about we highlight the 20th? I think that worked.
Wait,
That already
October
worked.
14th is a Friday, right?
No, the 14th
No,
is
it's
a
Thursday.
Thursday.
When did you send this? I can't get through. I got all these I got 150 new emails that in the last
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
12 hours.
Yeah.
So
This
what-
came out, I think, Tuesday morning.
Tuesday at 11:43. I just see it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's when I was struggling with.
Peter
Zurich.
Magic via Doodle. Why were you in Zurich, Peter?
I don't know. I would love to go to Switzerland. Never been. You know.
Chocolate's good. I've been there.
Is that where our retreat is?
Yeah.
Good idea.
Mm.
With that very large planning board budget we have.
I'll make the motion. Somebody can second.
Okay, so which one you guys? What are we focused on here?
You're gonna choose as many as you can go to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I don't think we have to do
Not
that
dessert.
now, right?
No, you
So
don't
we-
have to do it now. You have time to do it.
Yeah.
You have
Look
time
at your
to do it.
calendar, and unless we have anything else, we can entertain a motion to get out of here before 11. Not that we're really getting out of where we are, but out of
Out of
Zoom
Zoom, I
space.
mean.
Let's say.
Zoom space.
Out
All
of
right.
Zoom space.
I'll
Does
make,
anyone have anything else? We will let these two see if there's hopefully a time that works for everybody. Otherwise, we'll look for some more.
Before we break, I just want to say, once Joe and Deepa, when it's like collect those, I'll send out the dates. Tomorrow I'll be in the office. I got some things going on. Monday I got ZBA stuff, but I'm also going to work on the decision. Once the decision's finalized, I will send everybody email out to come in and sign the decision. So if everyone could look for that next week, I would greatly appreciate it. Other than that, I'm all set with reports. I do want to tell you that we're going to have a COVID clinic, a testing clinic, starting to open up at our MBTA station, which is a really big deal. So if anybody is looking to get tested for COVID in the next couple, I believe probably it'll be up and running by late next week. Hopefully, fingers crossed.
Is that when is that there? Is it there like all the time?
Yeah, it's going to be a state. It's going to be a state. The state's going to open it up. You'll hear more about it. It's going to be blasted out by Facebook and stuff like that.
Is it a walk-in appointments or?
It's going to be drive-through at
Oh,
the
okay.
MBTA station on the Memorial Drive side.
So
of
you don't need
things.
to make appointments. You don't
Nope.
need to make appointments. Okay.
Nope. I was over there today, so I was with them dealing with the planning and all that type of stuff. So
Yeah, I've been using Project Beacon, which is but you make appointments. It was drive-through, but now you can walk in.
Oh, okay. Heck yeah. I've been knocking on wood. We're all healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Anything else?
I'm all set.
All right. Then I will entertain a motion to adjourn at 10:52 PM
So moved.
Moved.
Oh, sorry, seconded.
and a roll call vote.
Lakshmi Krishnan, I.
Savangita.
Anna Tesmanitsky, aye.
Joe Ruberton, aye.
And Trisha Kendall, aye. That is 500. Thank you, everybody. And
Good night.
enjoy a restful evening.
Have a great weekend, everybody.
Good night,
Bye, everybody.
Bye.